Chapter 665. What's going on? Is this demonic chi the entrance to the demonic realm? D***M*, what's going on? Why would the entrance to the demonic realm suddenly appear? Wasn't it sealed by Chu Kuangren back then? Is there anyone nearby? Let's go check it out. There are no emperors guarding that area. The emperors were alerted. Their emperor's thoughts swept across the Purgatory Forest. The Purgatory Forest, as the sealed entrance to the demonic realm, was a sensitive location. It had been eroded by demonic chi before, so the spiritual chi there was not abundant. Coupled with the demonic realm seal, it was separated from the 300 Taoist continents. In other words, there were no emperors guarding that area. Therefore, when the demonic realm broke the seal, no emperors came immediately. Most of the emperors were still observing the situation. For example, how many people from the demonic realm and how many emperors were there? Don't act rashly. Let's stop the demonic chi from spreading first. As for the demonic realm's emperors, let's see how strong they are first. Not bad. There seems to be a survivor of the Ashura clan. Should we save her? She's just a boundary emperor. Let her fend for herself. Black Heaven Sect, inside the towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren suddenly opened his eyes, and a terrifying glint flashed across them. The Purgatory Forest's sealing sword formation has been broken. He stored the divine parasol fruit's energy that he had yet to completely refine with his heaven and earth furnace body, then disappeared. Inside the Purgatory Forest, the entrance to the demonic realm was filled with terrifying energy fluctuations. Then, figures walked out one after another, including various demonic creatures such as hellhounds, demonic wolves, demonic dragons, and so on. They were led by 7 demonic emperors. Zhan Hongying recognized them. They were the 7 demonic emperors from the previous demonic realm invasion. Their clones had come to Firmament Star before. But now, it was their true selves. The 7 demonic emperors descended upon Firmament Star, and their terrifying emperor's aura swept across the void like a tidal wave, shaking the entire firmament. Zhan Hongying could not move under the pressure. They're real emperors. And with such strength, they're no ordinary emperors. Zhan Hongying had experienced the emperor's aura in the Emperor Mountains, but even Zi Wuji, Wang Quan, and the other new emperor's aura combined was no match for any one of the 7 demon emperors. My original body has finally descended upon this world. The heavenly way has recovered. This is a good time. In this way, we can use our abilities without fear. Demon Emperor Pride sneered. Beside him, the other demon emperors were all smiles. Then, the muscular Wrath Demon Emperor seemed to have discovered something. He looked at the corpses of the Ashura tribe members on the ground and sneered, "Looks like someone helped us break the sword array, which is why the entrance was opened. I wonder who is so kind. We've opened the entrance to the demon world, but there's no sign of anyone. It seems like the person who helped us break the seal has other intentions. It doesn't matter. As long as we can get out, Firmament Star will be our world. As long as they don't threaten us, it's fine." The few demon emperors were discussing. When the monarch's senses in the surroundings swept past the 7 of them, the monarchs couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. The strength of the 7 monarchs of the devil world was too powerful. Even the weakest among them had a complete imperial emperor cultivation level. In comparison, although Firmament Star had an advantage in terms of the number of monarchs, they were still lacking in top-tier monarchs. The strength of the 7 monarchs of the devil world has reached such a level. Looks like this is going to be a tough battle. Just as the monarchs were discussing how to end this battle, the 7 monarchs of the devil world made a new move. Open the demonic realm territory. Demon Emperor Pride said calmly. He took out a black iron order with the word Pride engraved on it. The other demon emperors nodded and each took out an iron order. Those iron orders were engraved with the words greed, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, sloth, and pride. There were a total of 7 of them. The 7 black iron orders engraved with the title of Demon Emperor collided in the air, and an indescribable mysterious wave instantly spread out, forming a terrifying force field within a 10,000-mile radius. Or rather, a territory. This was the demonic realm territory. All the monarchs felt this territory and their expressions changed slightly. They could actually feel a threat from this territory. That's the demonic realm territory. Star condensation. Great Emperor frowned slightly. Legend has it that the 7 monarchs of the devil world can work together to form a territory. Within that territory, creatures that are not from the devil world will be greatly suppressed, unable to unleash their full strength. I'm afraid this is the reason why the 7 monarchs dare to conquer the world. Thinking of this, the monarchs could not help but hesitate. The 7 monarchs were all full-fledged monarchs. Coupled with this demonic realm territory, even the 300 monarchs would not be able to win. This demonic realm territory is too overpowered. Rumor has it that it has something to do with the gods of hell. Let's inform the Celestial Honorable Council and have them come. This matter is no longer something that ordinary monarchs can interfere with. The monarchs kept communicating in the void. These monarchs came to Firmament Star mainly to watch over the gods that were sealed, and to collect some treasures and the like. It was basically impossible for them to risk their lives for this. Otherwise, they would have gone to the extraterrestrial battlefield to fight. Why would they come to Firmament Star to stay and live a comfortable and leisurely life? Inside the Purgatory Forest. After the demonic realm territory was opened, the demonic chi between heaven and earth suddenly became much stronger. Countless demonic creatures roared in excitement. Remnants of the Ashura tribe. The Wrath Demon Emperor suddenly noticed Zhan Hongying and Pippi below. He grinned and slowly descended to the ground. The moment his feet touched the ground, the entire ground exploded. Zhan Hongying and Pippi were sent flying by the terrifying demonic aura. How terrifying! Zhan Hongying lay on the ground, vomiting blood. Her opponent did not even make a move. Just his aura alone was enough to injure her. She felt like an ant in front of the Wrath Demon Emperor. No, she was even worse than an ant. Woman, kneel down and kowtow to me. Maybe I'll let you go. How about that? You want me to beg for mercy from the demonic race? Impossible. Heh, you've got guts. The Wrath Demon Emperor chuckled. He raised his hand and summoned demonic chi to form a giant black hand that grabbed Zhan Hongying in midair. Gacha, gacha, gacha. Zhan Hongying's bones, flesh, and blood exploded. Is it painful? If you beg for mercy, I'll let you go. The Wrath Demon Emperor laughed. Although Zhan Hongying screamed in pain, she did not beg for mercy. The emperors who were watching shook their heads and sighed. It's better to live than to die. To put it nicely, these Ashura tribe members are stubborn. To put it bluntly, they don't know what's good for them. Forget it. She's just a boundary emperor. Although she's talented and has the potential to become an emperor, this is as far as she can go. Just as Zhan Hongying was about to fall, a sword ray suddenly shot out. It was wrapped in extremely condensed Daoist markings and Emperor's chi. It locked onto the Wrath Demon Emperor. The Wrath Demon Emperor's pupils dilated and he threw a punch. With a bang, the fist and the sword collided. Under the impact of the demonic chi and Emperor's chi, the beautiful white jade sword was sent flying and landed in the hands of a young man. It's you. Chapter 666. It's you. The Wrath Demon Emperor was knocked back a few steps. His pupils dilated when he saw who it was. That person was dressed in a snow-white robe, had waist-length hair, and held a beautiful white jade sword in his hand. With a single step, he seemed to have crossed the distance of tens of thousands of meters to reach Zhan Hongying's side. He then cast the Spring Breeze healing technique to heal Zhan Hongying. However, he realized that the spiritual chi in the surroundings had been corroded by demonic chi, so the Spring Breeze healing technique's effects were minimal. Fortunately, Chu Kuangren was a top-notch healer. He channeled his Emperor's chi and formed a water droplet at the tip of his finger. The water droplet landed on Zhan Hongying's forehead, protecting her last bit of life. He then looked around and sighed. It's me. I'm too late. The Ashura tribe has protected the demonic realm for hundreds of thousands of years. Their spirits are immortal and will be passed down from generation to generation. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes. In front of him, the Wrath Demon Emperor laughed. No, you're not late. I can send you down to accompany them. Chu Kuangren put away his sadness and looked at the Wrath Demon Emperor with a cold murderous intent. You're right. They're still waiting for someone to apologize to them. I'll send you down today. He handed Zhang Hongying over to the demonic wolf beside him and said, take care of your master. Leave this to me. A woo, the demonic wolf grabbed Zhang Hongying with its mouth, threw her onto its back, and left. After her. The Wrath Demon Emperor said. Suddenly, a group of demonic soldiers chased after Zhang Hongying. With a thought from Chu Kuangren, he lifted his hand and a stream of crimson flames gushed out, incinerating all the soldiers who were chasing after him into ashes. Kill every single demon that descends upon this realm today. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self sword in his right hand while his left burned with crimson phoenix flames. His cold and burning murderous intent enveloped the entire realm. The demonic emperor's eyes widened. He's an emperor. How long has it been since we last met, and he's already an emperor? This person's speed of growth is unbelievable. There was a hint of wariness in Demon Emperor Pride's eyes. Including this time, he had only met Chu Kuangren a total of 3 times. The first time, Chu Kuangren was just an honorable. The second time, Chu Kuangren had become a boundary emperor, and this time, Chu Kuangren had become an emperor. Not only that, it's always you. You're always the one standing in front of the devil realm. You're really the biggest stumbling block for the devil realm. Demon Emperor Pride said in a low voice, alright, I'll avenge my son Tu Heng today. Tu Heng, the forbidden prodigy of the demon race. He was also a strong candidate for the throne. However, he was killed by Chu Kuangren in the Emperor's Road. Ever since Demon Emperor Pride heard of this news, he had been brooding over it. He and Chu Kuangren had long become mortal enemies. Kill. Demon Emperor Pride was the first to make his move. A dark red longsword suddenly appeared in his hand, and a surging saber ray circulated before it turned into a 1,000-meter-long saber shadow that slashed down at Chu Kuangren. Invincible magic, reverse heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren also unleashed a sword attack. However, the moment the saber shadow and sword ray came into contact, Chu Kuangren was at a disadvantage for the first time. His entire body was blasted back several hundred meters by the saber ray. Chu Kuangren frowned. Indeed. Demon Emperor Pride's cultivation base was at the 9th level of the Emperor realm. After absorbing the divine parasol fruit, Chu Kuangren's cultivation base had also reached the 4th level of the Emperor realm. That was already a great emperor. On top of that, he had a top-tier profound technique, a perfect Tao, and an ultimate emperor's essence. Chu Kuangren was confident that he should not have been at a disadvantage in that attack. However, after he unleashed that sword attack, its power was greatly reduced as if it was being suppressed by a certain force. It's this realm. This realm is suppressing my Tao and power. Chu Kuangren murmured as he realized that something was wrong. Chu Kuangren, do you know why the other emperors of Firmament Star didn't come? It's because of this demonic realm domain. Within this domain, any non-demonic beings will be suppressed. I can't believe you have the guts to step in alone. Demon Emperor Pride sneered. The other demon emperors looked like they were watching a show. They did not interfere. From their point of view, Chu Kuangren was no match for their real bodies. Coupled with the demonic realm domain, Demon Emperor Pride alone was enough to deal with him. Heh, don't compare me to those cowards. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He activated the Emperor's Qi in his body and activated the 10,000 avatar. The emperors who were secretly observing the situation frowned. They were very unhappy with Chu Kuangren's words. What does this guy mean? He's still so arrogant at a time like this. Just because of what he said earlier, I originally wanted to save him, but now I don't even want to anymore. That's right. We must let him suffer a little. The emperors communicated through their emperor's thoughts. Meanwhile, in the Black Heaven sect, several rays of light were rushing towards the purgatory forest. They were Lan Yu, the godly phoenix, and the other new emperors. They wanted to support Chu Kuangren. However, before they could even get close to the purgatory forest, they were blocked by an invisible force. It was the demonic realm domain. Inside the purgatory forest, the demon emperor of greed licked his lips and said, "I've just activated the demonic realm domain's barrier. As long as we don't agree, the other emperors won't be able to enter. Kid, you're all alone now." Outside the purgatory forest, Murong Xian, Lan Yu, and the others were attacking the demonic realm's barrier. They activated their emperor's qi and continuously attacked the demonic realm's barrier. However, they were all blocked and could not be moved. After all, they were just a few new emperors. Emperors, are you guys going to continue watching the show? That's right. The demonic realm has invaded and Firmament Star is in danger. As emperors, are you guys going to sit back and do nothing? Murong Xian questioned the emperors. He knew that the emperors were watching this battle. Newcomer emperor, you don't know how powerful the demonic realm domain is. If we enter, our combat strength will be reduced to less than 10%. This battle is no longer something we can handle. We've already reported it to the higher-ups. The celestial condensation emperor's voice sounded. Murong Xian's expression darkened. Since we've reported it to the heavenly venerables, when will they arrive? A day at the earliest. Firmament Star is the origin of the heavenly Tao. The heavenly venerables will not sit back and watch as the demonic realm takes over this place. A day? Do you think the sect leader will have enough time to stop the hundreds of millions of demonic army and the 7 demonic emperors for a day? Murong Xian was so angry that his face turned pale. Isn't Chu Kuangren very powerful? I believe this small matter is nothing to him. Who knows, he might even turn the tables and wipe out the entire demonic army. A playful voice was heard. It was Dark North Schwanz's voice. He had a grudge against Chu Kuangren, so he could not help but mock him when he saw that Chu Kuangren was at a disadvantage. You guys. Murong Xian could tell that the emperors wanted to use this opportunity to make Chu Kuangren suffer. However, there was nothing he could do. With his strength as a new emperor, coupled with Lan Yu, Ling Mingyu, and the godly phoenix, it was impossible for them to break through the barrier. Chapter 667. Within the Purgatory Forest, Chu Kuangren had single-handedly fought against the entire demonic army. However, due to the suppression of the demon realm, his Tao and cultivation had been greatly weakened. Even with a powerful move like the 10,000 Taos, he was still at a disadvantage against Demon Emperor Pride. If this goes on, it will be very disadvantageous for me. Chu Kuangren muttered. He took a deep breath, and a silver-white Tao pattern flowed on his palm. Fine, I'll try this power. Chu Kuangren clenched his fists, and a majestic surge of heavenly poise erupted from his body, causing the weaker demonic cultivators around him to tremble. A layer of miraculous Tao patterns covered the 10,000 Dharma characteristics. That was the Heaven Punishment Tao pattern. The Heavenly Punishment Tao pattern appeared, and the 10,000 Dharma forms punched out. The terrifying power directly created pitch-black cracks in the air. Demon Emperor Pride was caught off guard, and he was sent flying by this punch, smashing through several mountain ranges in succession. The demonic army widened their eyes and fell into a deathly silence. The other demon emperors were also shocked, not daring to believe it. Even Chu Kuangren himself was a little shocked. He felt that the strange suppressive feeling around him had disappeared. Right now, he was not suppressed at all. His entire body was relaxed. What's going on? Can the Heaven Punishment Tao pattern counteract this suppression? Chu Kuangren could feel the rising energy in his body and could not help but feel a little surprised. A thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. Demon Emperor Pride rushed out of the mountain range. That punch just now had caused him some injuries, but it was just a little. What shocked him even more was, the demonic realm domain was useless against Chu Kuangren. Such a thing was almost impossible to happen. What's going on? Demon Emperor Pride looked a little surprised. This realm of the demon realm originates from the gods of hell. Even a celestial master can't be completely unaffected. How did you do it? The gods of hell? Chu Kuangren muttered. It seemed like it was really the effect of the heaven punishment Tao pattern. In the past, when he used the power of the heavenly punishment Tao rhyme to fight against the light god and dark god, they had shown fear towards the heavenly punishment Tao rhyme. Right now, the power of the devil realm domain originated from the gods. It could suppress Empyreans, but it couldn't suppress him, who had the heavenly punishment Tao pattern. In other words, the heavenly punishment Tao pattern had a restraining effect on the gods. Interesting. Does this mean that I'll have to face the gods sooner or later? Chu Kuangren smirked. The heavenly punishment pattern covered the Dharma form. Around him, his aura was rising steadily, and the cultivation of the fourth level of the sovereign realm was fully unleashed. His perfect Tao and ultimate Empyrean origin all erupted. Boom, boom, with Chu Kuangren as the epicenter, the terrifying emperor's aura spread in all directions, shaking everything within 100,000 kilometers. The emperors who were observing from the shadows were shocked. How could this be? How could he have such power? Previously, he was clearly in the second stage. How did he become a fourth stage cultivator? Even if he has the divine parasol fruit, isn't the speed of his refinement a little too fast? He's not affected by the domain of the demonic world? How did he do it? There's also this kind of Tao pattern. What exactly is it? It's really too mysterious. Even with my cultivation, I can't comprehend a single bit of it. All the emperors looked at Chu Kuangren in bewilderment. In such a short time, Chu Kuangren had broken through from the second level of the emperor realm to the fourth level. Not only that, but he had also unleashed combat strength that far exceeded his cultivation level. Moreover, he was not affected by the demonic world's domain at all. All of these made the emperors feel incredulous. A new emperor was able to shock them again and again. That Tao pattern is, the star condensation great emperor, who was the leader of the group of emperors, seemed to have thought of something when he saw the heavenly punishment Tao pattern on Chu Kuangren's body. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Somewhere else, on a certain mountain peak, the mysterious cloaked person who had just opened the demonic realm's seal and left the infernal forest was also watching the battle between the demonic realm and Chu Kuangren. When she saw the heavenly punishment Tao pattern on Chu Kuangren's body, she was equally shocked. The power of the heavenly punishment, the heavenly executioner. Impossible, this is impossible. How can Chu Kuangren be a heavenly executioner? There are only so many heavenly executioners. How did a new heavenly executioner appear out of nowhere? Besides, those few heavenly executioners were all trusted aides of the human king. Now that the human king is dead, how did Chu Kuangren gain such power? The mysterious cloaked person was extremely shocked. A heavenly executioner. To her, or to the organization behind her, this was extremely terrifying. It was an existence that even the deities were afraid of. Chu Kuangren. This matter is of great importance. We must report this to the leader and the others as soon as possible. A new heavenly executioner that came out of nowhere is just too unbelievable. The mysterious cloaked person murmured. In the infernal forest, Chu Kuangren activated the heavenly punishment Tao pattern, the ultimate emperor essence, and the perfect Taoist. His power shook the entire demonic realm. Even Demon Emperor Pride, who was a ninth heaven emperor, felt waves of pressure. The rest of the demonic emperors looked solemn as well. This guy is too scary. He wasn't even an emperor the last time we met, but now he's so powerful. He's always the one standing in front of us. D***it. Let's attack together. We must kill him today. This person is not affected by the demonic realm's domain suppression. We can't let him live. The demonic emperors looked at each other and made up their minds. 7 different emperors' auras erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren. Kill! The 7 demonic emperors charged at Chu Kuangren together. Come! Chu Kuangren, who was going all out for the first time, was not afraid at all. He activated the 10,000 avatar Daos and clashed with the 7 demonic emperors. Furious flow. The enraged demonic emperor let out a roar as he unleashed his demonic chi, which turned into a black torrent that surged towards Chu Kuangren. At the same time, the 10,000 Daos punched the black torrent. With a loud bang, cracks appeared in the space. The Wrath Demon Emperor was sent flying by the terrifying power that erupted from the fusion of multiple Dao bodies, and smashed into the demonic realm army. Some of the demonic creatures that were hit by him exploded. When Chu Kuangren was still in the 2nd stage Emperor realm, he could already suppress 2 6th-stage Daoist realm cultivators with just the 10,000 Daoist avatar. Now that he had advanced to the 4th stage of the Emperor realm, under the situation where the ultimate Emperor origin energy was fully unleashed, even a 9th stage realm would find it hard to resist. Unless it was those 9th stage realm cultivators with extremely strong foundations. However, the Wrath Demon Emperor's foundation was not very strong. He only had an incomplete Dao and mid-grade Emperor essence, which was why he was sent flying by this punch. The other demonic emperors also attacked Chu Kuangren. Devourer of Greed. Proud Heart's Secret Art. Eye of Jealousy. Heaven Devouring Undercurrent. Several different Emperor/S auras erupted with countless mysterious Daoist patterns that covered the heavens and earth as they blasted towards Chu Kuangren. The attack came from all directions. Even the 10,000 Daos could not completely block it. Phoenix Flames. Chu Kuangren let out a low roar, and terrifying blood-red flames gushed out from his surroundings. The 10,000 Daos avatar also let out a low roar and waved its fists. The Phoenix Flames and Daoist avatar energy erupted at the same time. Coupled with the heavenly punishment Daoist patterns, its power was multiplied. Amidst the explosion, the terrifying impact caused cracks to spread across the space. The entire Purgatory Forest was completely shattered. Chapter 668. Inside the Purgatory Forest, amidst a sea of fire, Chu Kuangren controlled the 10,000 Daoist avatars and faced the 7 demonic emperors alone. The emperors who were secretly observing felt their breaths getting heavier. Not only did he have so many Daoist physiques, but he could also control the Phoenix Flames. That was the power of the godly Phoenix. They even wondered if Chu Kuangren could undergo nirvana. In fact, Chu Kuangren could. The godly Phoenix physique also gave him the ability to undergo nirvana. However, he had the immortal body, so he could not use the nirvana ability. All of you, attack! The furious demonic emperor roared. In an instant, the hundreds of millions of demonic soldiers behind him surged towards Chu Kuangren. The demonic chi was like a torrent that shook the heavens and earth. There were demons, demonic dragons, 3-headed hounds, demonic wolves, and so on. There were countless of them. Aside from their species, most of them were at the honorable realm. A portion of them were sages and boundary emperors. Even an emperor would have a hard time against such a large army. The 7 demonic emperors wanted to overwhelm Chu Kuangren with numbers. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren was least afraid of group battles. What he was best at was fighting a group alone. Demonic scum, I'll kill as many as you come. Chu Kuangren grinned as a ray of lightning shot out from his body. The lightning flew into the demonic army, and wherever it went, the demonic soldiers were crushed by the terrifying lightning energy. The lightning returned to Chu Kuangren and turned into a blue guqin. Emperor Weapon, Spring Thunder. Chu Kuangren placed all 10 fingers on the guqin strings, and the celestial demonic music was played. The celestial demonic music unleashed its destructive power. The horrifying sound waves were accompanied by the solidified Daoist patterns that spread out and danced in the air, shattering countless demonic soldiers. The heads of demonic hounds, the arms of demonic dragons, broken weapons, blood-stained armors, and internal organs mixed with blood danced in the air. The ultimate sound of the human world painted a scene of Azura purgatory. The heavens and earth were boundless, and the city was filled with wind and rain. Chu Kuangren's Guqi music became louder and louder, and the Guqin Daoist pattern surrounded him. Not a single demonic soldier could get within 10 feet of him. D***amenit, D***amenit. This guy has too many tricks up his sleeves. It'll be difficult to win in a group battle. The only way is to defeat him. Demonic soldiers, form the demonic dragon formation. Demon Emperor Pride roared. Countless demon soldiers heard the summons and lined up in the air. In next to no time, an enormous formation was set up while profound Dao markings flowed about, and it transformed into a pitch-black and savage enormous devil dragon. Roar. With a furious roar, the demonic dragon released a terrifying sound wave that overpowered the Guqi music. Chu Kuangren's 8 celestial demonic chords could not help but stagnate. Oh, the power of the demonic world's formation, the demonic dragon? Let's try this. When Chu Kuangren lifted his arm, a huge amount of phoenix flames surged into the sky. The phoenix fire gathered in the air along with countless runes, turning into a blood-red divine phoenix. A sharp cry rang out, and countless demonic beasts felt a tremble from the depths of their bloodlines. This was the might of a divine beast. The blood-red divine phoenix condensed from phoenix fire and the demonic dragon condensed from demonic energy collided in the air, and a terrifying shockwave spread out continuously. Roar. The battle between the divine phoenix and the demonic dragon dyed the sky black and red. The surrounding mountains and rivers shook violently. The emperors who were secretly observing the battle were shocked by this power. This power is no longer something an ordinary 9th-level Emperor Realm cultivator can compare to. What's this guy's limit? Or rather, does he even have a limit? How did he master the godly phoenix's power? Even Chu Hong was secretly amazed. Big Brother's phoenix fire is even better than mine. It's amazing. Although she was a godly phoenix. However, after Chu Kuangren mastered the godly phoenix physique, the power of his phoenix fire was the same as hers. Coupled with the gap in their realms, Chu Kuangren's phoenix fire was even more powerful than Chu Hong's. Boom, 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 the battle between the demonic dragon and the godly phoenix became more and more intense. When the 7 demonic emperors saw that, they looked at each other and charged towards Chu Kuangren while he was controlling the godly phoenix to fight the demonic dragon. Oh, you guys really know how to seize the opportunity. Unfortunately, you've underestimated me. Chu Kuangren moved his mind, and the 10,000 Daoist avatars behind him moved, blocking all the demonic emperor's attacks. Chu Kuangren was multitasking, but he was still able to deal with the attacks with ease. Not only that, but he also played the celestial demonic chord. A terrifying sound wave instantly erupted. This time, it was the 8th celestial demonic chord, Grand Note of Silence. The soundless Guqi music carried physical Daoist patterns and crashed into the demonic soldiers who were setting up the formation in the distance. The demonic emperor's expressions changed. Oh no! The Guqi music landed among the demonic soldiers and exploded. Countless demonic soldiers' flesh and blood exploded, and broken limbs flew everywhere. The formation that spawned the demonic dragon was destroyed, and the demonic dragon in the sky was greatly weakened. It was immediately suppressed by the godly phoenix. Not long after, the phoenix fire burned the demonic chi and burned the entire demonic dragon into ashes. Not only that, but the godly phoenix let out a piercing shriek and charged into the demonic army. It exploded, and an endless amount of phoenix fire gushed out in all directions. Amidst the screams, countless demonic soldiers were turned into ashes. D***amenit. The 7 demonic emperors' expressions were extremely grim. Guqi music and phoenix fire were enough to kill any ordinary demonic soldier. Chu Kuangren had killed hundreds of millions of demonic soldiers, but he had lost almost half of them. On the other hand, his opponent was unscathed. This guy is really the nemesis of the demonic realm. Is there really nothing the demonic realm can do to him? The demonic emperors gritted their teeth. The demonic soldiers were terrified. Everyone, do you still remember the power of 7 sins? Just then, Demon Emperor Pride took a deep breath and said. The other demonic emperor's expressions changed. You're crazy. Demon Emperor Wrath growled. I'm not crazy. This is the only way to deal with this guy. It's a little risky, but it's worth a try. Demon Emperor Pride said firmly. The demonic emperor's expressions changed as if they were hesitant. We've never tried this before. Then today is the best chance. Let's try it. Demon Emperor Wrath gritted his teeth and said. Bring it on then. Demon Emperor Envy, Demon Emperor Greed, and the others also had a determined look in their eyes. Then, the 7 of them stood together. Chu Kuangren watched from the side while the 10,000 avatars behind him unleashed a punch. However, a strange fluctuation emanated from the 7 demonic emperors' bodies, forcing the 10,000 avatars to retreat. The 7 demonic emperors turned into 7 rays of black light that converged in the air and formed a huge black light cocoon. There were Taoist patterns on it, and one could vaguely see a human figure floating in the light cocoon. This is the power of 7 sins. An old demonic cultivator gulped and said. The other demonic cultivators were shocked too. Legend has it that the power of the 7 demonic emperors originates from the deities, and their powers can merge with each other. That new power is called the power of 7 sins. So it's true. The power of 7 sins is close to the power of the gods. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued as he looked at the black light cocoon. Close to the power of the gods? Interesting. Let's see what you can do. Chapter 669. Inside the black light cocoon, a figure floated. An incomparably tyrannical aura that far surpassed the 9th stage of the Imperial Emperor realm poured out, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Everything within a radius of 10,000 miles was shocked. Immediately afterward, a hand stretched out from the black light cocoon, and the entire light cocoon turned into light spots and quickly dissipated, revealing a slender figure. It was an extremely seductive man with long purple hair, a black armor clinging to his body, and a long saber in his hand. The Emperor's aura on his body was like a tide, spreading wave after wave. All the creatures from the demonic realm could not help but feel a sense of surrender, wanting to kneel on the ground and worship. 7 sins, is this the power of 7 sins? It's really strong. The seductive man stood in the air, feeling the surging demonic chi in his body, and a joyful smile appeared on his face. Chu Kuangren watched from the side and activated his eye of revelation. The fusion of the power of 7 demonic emperors, blessed by the power of the gods. How should I address you now? Arrogant, greedy, angry? Chu Kuangren said playfully. 7 sins. My name is 7 sins. The seductive man, 7 sins, said proudly. He looked at Chu Kuangren with cold eyes, as if he was looking at a dead man, without the slightest emotion. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Chu Kuangren. The long saber in his hand turned into a black arc light and suddenly slashed out. Chu Kuangren also slashed out with the long sword in his hand. A clang was heard. The sword and saber collided, and the chi and Taoist patterns danced and shot out. Chu Kuangren was repelled. The 10,000 avatars behind him punched out at the same time, and the surging avatar power gathered like a destructive storm that locked onto 7 sins. Do you think your avatar power is still useful? 7 sins laughed and slashed out again. The black saber light whistled and tore the storm apart, forcing the avatar back. However, a mysterious Taoist pattern crossed the void and landed on him, causing him to vomit blood and fly backward. This power again? What the hell is this thing? 7 sins looked at the heavenly punishment Taoist patterns that circulated around Chu Kuangren, and his eyes darkened with fear. After transforming into 7 sins, he felt that the threat of the heavenly punishment Tao pattern to him had actually increased. Chu Kuangren had noticed this as well. The power of the 7 sins is basically the power of the gods. However, my heavenly punishment Taoist pattern can restrain the gods, and the 7 sins happens to be the target of its restraint. He made up his mind to study this heaven punishment Tao pattern when he returned. He felt that this thing would be of great use to him in the future, especially when it came to dealing with the gods. Even if you have this strange Taoist mark, the gap between you and me is huge now. You're doomed to die today. Seven Sins said coldly, its killing intent towards Chu Kuangren growing stronger. A gap in cultivation? That's hard to say. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren activated his mind power. In the air, a large number of mysterious patterns appeared and condensed into a gigantic colorful rune. 9 Dragons Divine Transformation. The divine 9 dragon transformation talismans appeared, and the demonic energy in the surroundings surged toward the talismans in a frenzy, turning into 9 ferocious roaring demonic dragons. Seven Sins' expression changed slightly. What are you doing? Chu Kuangren did not say a word, but the 9 ferocious demonic dragons had already swooped down towards him and quickly merged into his body. You're crazy. How dare you forcefully inject demonic chi? Seven Sins said in disbelief. Not only him, but the rest of the emperors were also shocked. The demonic chi was different from the firmament star's spiritual chi. For non-demonic beings, it was like poisonous gas that was harmful to them. Yet now, Chu Kuangren dared to forcefully inject demonic chi into his body. In the eyes of the crowd, such an act was tantamount to suicide. I know that talisman of his. This person can use this talisman to transform the spiritual chi of heaven and earth into dragon chi, and then forcefully increase his cultivation. So what if that's the case? He's forcefully absorbing demonic chi now, which is useless to humans. There's demonic chi everywhere in this demonic realm domain. How much spiritual chi is there for him to absorb? He's dead meat. What happened next was even more shocking to the crowd. They saw that Chu Kuangren, who had forcefully absorbed the demonic chi into his body, did not show any signs of discomfort like everyone had imagined. On the contrary, his aura was still rising steadily. Emperor level 5, Emperor level 6, Emperor level 7. With the help of the 9 Dragons Divine Transformation Talisman, Chu Kuangren's cultivation had broken through 3 levels and reached the Emperor level 7 in one fell swoop. In other words, he was a perfected emperor. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. What kind of talisman is that? How can it be so powerful? How can he absorb demonic chi? The emperors were shocked and puzzled. Seven Sins, on the other hand, felt an immense pressure. After Chu Kuangren felt the surge of power in his body, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Not too bad. The 9 Dragons Divine Transformation Talisman was a legendary talisman. As his cultivation grew stronger, its power would correspondingly increase as well. With his current cultivation level, it allowed him to break through 3 levels in one go and become a perfected emperor. As for absorbing demonic chi into his body, that was not a problem for Chu Kuangren at all. To put it bluntly, devil chi was just a kind of strange energy. Since he had the universal cauldron physique, he could absorb all kinds of strange energies between heaven and earth. Demonic chi and spiritual chi were no different to him. Come, let's continue. Chu Kuangren looked at Seven Sins and said. Once the Descendant Self-Sword was unleashed, it would be an invincible technique. The strange phenomenon of the sun and the moon being reversed and the stars falling suddenly erupted. This technique of invincibility was accompanied by the heavenly punishment Taoist patterns, which formed a restraining effect on Seven Sins and made him feel even more pressured. Pride slash. Seven Sins raised his hand and slashed out a blade, colliding with the technique of invincibility. However, the huge force sent Seven Sins flying backward by a few dozen feet. His body trembled violently, and the power of Seven Sins showed signs of collapsing. I don't believe this. Eye of jealousy. A terrifying demonic light burst out from Seven Sins' eyes, as if it had pierced through the void and shot towards Chu Kuangren. Heaven Vortex. Taoist patterns flowed between Chu Kuangren's palms and condensed into a vortex. The demonic light was absorbed by the vortex, disintegrated, and then reflected. Seven Sins did not expect such a result and was blasted back again. Devourer of Greed. Raging Fist. 7 sins attacked again, and the billowing demonic chi turned into a giant black snake. Huge fist shadows whizzed towards Chu Kuangren from the left and right. Break! Chu Kuangren let out a soft roar, and the 10,000 Daoist avatars behind him, wrapped in Daoist patterns, smashed the demonic snake fist. D*M it. Blade of Lust. 7 Sin's face was as gloomy as water, and he activated his strongest technique. As the blade slashed down, the surroundings turned into an ambiguous pink, and one by one, seductive women flew towards Chu Kuangren in the air. These women were either laughing, annoyed, or resentful. Each of them was a heavenly beauty that was enough to make people fall head over heels for them. Even the emperors who were secretly observing could not help but be in a trance for a moment, feeling extremely fearful. Because behind these seductive women, there was a huge blade shadow following closely. Once one was confused by the scene in front of them, this blade would take advantage of the moment when one was distracted and cut them in half. Lust was like a blade above one's head. However, Chu Kuangren's eyes were clear, and he was not affected at all. You're just some female skeletons, and you want to mess with my Daoist core? Break. Chapter 670. The heavenly punishment Daoist pattern can be combined with runes? I see. After witnessing the 7 divine punishments, Chu Kuangren had a new understanding of the heavenly punishment Daoist pattern. In the following days, he devoted himself to the study of the heavenly punishment Daoist pattern. Besides that, a series of changes were also happening in Firmament Star. For example, the heavenly Dao's revival, the rise of various sky prides, the emergence of various treasures, the unsealing of the deities, and the rise of some sects. Time flew, and 3 months had passed. In these 3 months, the changes were not huge, but if one were to put it simply, everyone could clearly feel that Firmament Star had changed. The spiritual chi was more abundant, the treasures were more abundant, and it was easier for cultivators to cultivate. This was especially true in the Black Heaven sect's territory. How many treasures have been unearthed this month? In the Black Heaven sect, Elder Rian looked at a disciple carrying back a huge piece of jade that contained extremely pure energy. This should be the 6th. Put it in the treasury, Elder Rian said. In the past few months, because of the godly phoenix's presence, various treasures had appeared in the Black Heaven sect's territory, making many emperors envious. However, those emperors did not dare to have any strange thoughts. After all, with the godly phoenix's identity, who would dare to mess around? Moreover, many people were guessing that Chu Kuangren was also a person of great fortune. Otherwise, how could the godly phoenix have produced so many treasures in a small area of 100,000 kilometers? However, that was only a guess, and there was no solid evidence. Black Heaven sect, inside the towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren ended his closed-door meditation and opened the fantasy roulette. In the past 3 months, he had also been drawing gems. However, at his current cultivation level, most of the items he drew were no longer useful to him. Hence, he would put all the prizes into the Black Heaven sect's treasury. For so many years, the Black Heaven sect had been consuming resources, but Elder Rian and the others had never felt like they were stretched thin. On the contrary, everyone felt that the more treasures they used, the more treasures they had. Let's begin the gems. Congratulations, host. You have obtained a Supreme Deity Grade Divine Ability Upgrade card. Divine Ability Upgrade card. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Another Supreme Deity reward. With his current cultivation level, ordinary legendary level rewards were no longer of much use to him. Only God level and transcendent God level rewards would be of great help to him, such as Undying Body, Space Transportation Technique. These divine level rewards were still very useful to him. There was no need to mention the Book of Physique and the Luck Glow at the transcendent level. The former had allowed him to draw quite a few good items. Without this halo, he probably wouldn't have improved so quickly. As for the latter, as he delved deeper into his research, its value gradually manifested. Now, he had drawn another transcendent reward. He opened his inventory. Supreme God level reward, Divine Ability Upgrade card. Using this card, you can upgrade a specified mystical ability. There is a certain chance that it will be upgraded to the Transcendent stage. This card made Chu Kuangren fall into deep thought. A specific divine ability? Right now, I have the Space Transfer Technique, the 4 Symbols Primordial Divine Sword, the Treasure-Seeking Technique, and the Insightful Eye. Since it's an upgrade, of course it's best to maximize the usefulness of this card. Right now, the most useful ones are the Insightful Eye and the Space Transfer Technique. I'll choose between these two. Chu Kuangren pondered. After thinking for a while, he finally chose the Insightful Eye. This divine ability had been with him for the longest time and had helped him a lot. As for the Space Transfer Technique, although it was also very powerful, it was not like there were no techniques in this world that were related to space. However, the Insightful Eye was different. This was the most unique divine ability that Chu Kuangren had ever seen. He really wanted to know what kind of effect this divine ability would have if it was upgraded. At that thought, he used the Divine Ability Upgrade card. Choose to upgrade Divine Ability, Insightful Eye. Yes. Insightful Eye upgrading, progress, 1%. Divine abilities needed a certain amount of time to upgrade, so Chu Kuangren no longer paid attention to it and let it upgrade on its own. After that, he left the Towering Heaven Palace and patrolled around the Black Heaven sect, paying special attention to the location of the hidden illusory secret realm. There, many disciples were queuing up to enter the hidden illusory secret realm. He smiled in satisfaction. These guys are quite self-aware. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but the cultivation is up to the individual. If these guys were not self-aware and did not work hard, no matter how many resources Chu Kuangren prepared for them, it would be useless. Upon arriving at the Longevity Hall, Elder Rian was busy sorting out some of the treasures. Seeing that Chu Kuangren had arrived, Elder Rian glanced at him and said, "Sect leader, please remember to categorize the items you put into the treasury next time. Weapons are weapons, and supreme elixirs are elixirs. The last time I entered the treasury, an axe fell from the ceiling. If I hadn't dodged it in time, I think my head would have been chopped off. I'll be more careful next time." Chu Kuangren scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. "You." Elder Rian shook her head helplessly. In the next few days, Chu Kuangren briefly dealt with some of the backlog of affairs in the Black Heaven sect. Among them, there was one thing that caught his attention. In the Firmament Nebula's barren path state, a few strange churches suddenly appeared. In just a few months, they had grown to tens of millions of followers, and there were even many experts among them. Chu Kuangren pondered. This was probably the work of those deities. Moreover, isn't the School of White Lotus located in the Cloudy Path state? Looks like I need to check it out. The School of White Lotus was considered an ally of the Black Heaven sect, and he still held the title of Supreme Elder of the School of White Lotus. The Cloudy Path state. The person in charge of this state was a 4th-level Emperor Realm Emperor. The first thing Chu Kuangren did when he arrived was to look for the Emperor and question, "How do you explain yourself when a church of a deity appeared in your territory?" The Emperor did not dare to be careless when he saw Chu Kuangren. He quickly explained, "Lord Heavenly Executioner, it's not that I don't care, but I can't. Those churches are secretly controlled by the Myriad Deity sect, and there are a few deities among them. I'm no match for them at all. Where are the Heavenly Honorables? Are they not here yet?" Chu Kuangren frowned. Now, there are only Heavenly Honorable Su and a few other lower-level Heavenly Honorables in the Firmament Star. As for the other Heavenly Honorables, I heard that the front line of the extraterrestrial battlefield is in an emergency, so they can't come," the Emperor said helplessly. He initially thought that coming to Firmament Star to look after the deity's seal was a lucrative job, but now it seemed like things were not as simple as he thought. If he was not careful, the danger would be no less than the extraterrestrial battlefield. Did something happen in the extraterrestrial battlefield too? Isn't it too much of a coincidence that the deities are stirring up trouble at this time? Chu Kuangren muttered to himself. There were internal and external threats. The Firmament Star was really in a precarious situation now. He shook his head, took out a jade scroll, and contacted 7th Executioner to ask for his opinion on the church that had recently appeared. He knew that the other party was being held back by 2 higher deities. Once he made a move, the 2 higher deities would follow suit. He had not fully recovered from his injuries. If he were to fight against 2 higher deities alone, even with the heavenly punishment energy, he would not be able to gain much of an advantage. Hence, he could only bide his time for now. Chapter 671. In the demon world, the dark red sky never changed. Chu Kuangren went on a killing spree in the demonic realm for 3 days. Aside from the demon emperor Pride, who was nowhere to be found, the other 6 demon emperors were all killed by him. The entire demonic realm was terrorized by him alone. With that done, Chu Kuangren left the demonic realm. Behind him, countless demons trembled in fear. After he left, everyone looked as if they had just survived a disaster. This is too terrifying. This is simply a nightmarish 3 days. Since the establishment of the demon realm, there has never been such a moment. How can there be such a terrifying human? Of the 7 demon emperors, some are dead, and some have disappeared. The isolation of the entire demon realm has undergone a huge change because of a single human. Has the world become so dangerous? This person has been killing for 3 days and 3 nights. The experts of the demon world and the army were almost wiped out by him alone. If the demon world wants to descend into the world again, I'm afraid they won't be able to gather a decent army. Countless devils were discussing spiritedly, and there were still remnants of fear in their hearts. The other side. On a blood-colored mountain peak, Demon Emperor Pride stared at the entrance to the demon realm in the sky with extreme hatred in his eyes, as well as a deep sense of fear. He hated it. He had witnessed Chu Kuangren's massacre for the past 3 days, but he did not dare to make a move. Instead, he hid himself well. Even if Chu Kuangren personally came to the imperial palace, destroyed it, and massacred his army and subordinates, he would not dare to make a sound or move. Because he understood. As long as he appeared, there would only be one outcome. That was death. He wanted to live. As long as he was alive, he would have the chance to take revenge. Chu Kuangren, you've trampled all over my dignity and pride, causing me to lose all my dignity. One day, I'll make you pay me back 100-fold, even if I have to pay a terrible price for it. Demon Emperor Pride let out a low growl that was stifling his anger. Terrifying demonic energy poured out of his body. The entire blood-colored mountain peak was reduced to dust in an instant. He gradually calmed himself down and looked into the depths of the demonic realm. His eyes flickered twice. If I want to deal with Chu Kuangren, I'll have to rely on the power of the deities. Hell is the demonic realm's greatest forbidden ground. Only there can I find an opportunity. Firmament Star, within the Purgatory Forest. Chu Kuangren stepped out of the entrance of the demonic realm. His white robe was still spotless, but his body was overflowing with murderous intent that was almost tangible. 3 consecutive days of killing was no joke. Chu Kuangren could no longer remember how many demonic creatures he had killed. 100 million, 200 million. That was no longer important. Most importantly, after this battle, the underworld would not be able to gather enough troops to invade Firmament Star in a short period of time. Just based on this point alone, Chu Kuangren felt that it was worth it even if he had to bear the heaviest amount of killing and the heinous sins he had committed. He's out? Such a murderous aura. How many has he killed? Oh my god, when the emperors saw Chu Kuangren walking out of the demonic realm vortex, their pupils dilated. They were shocked by his murderous intent. Murong Xian and the others, who had been waiting outside, were delighted. They were all relieved that Chu Kuangren was fine. Within the Purgatory Forest. Chu Kuangren frowned when he sensed that the demonic realm domain had not completely disappeared. He then raised his hand and punched towards the sky. With a loud explosion, the heavens and earth shook. This punch seemed to have hit some kind of barrier. The void exploded on the spot, and 7 black iron orders fell from the sky. The demonic realm domain instantly disappeared. Chu Kuangren grabbed the 7 iron tokens in midair. Is this the power that formed the demonic realm domain? Chu Kuangren fiddled with the iron tokens with a curious look. The names of the 7 great demonic emperors were engraved on the iron tokens, and they were engraved with mysterious Taoist patterns and surges of strange energy. It was a power that was completely different from the emperor's qi. Chu Kuangren was a little familiar with this power. It was as if he had seen it somewhere before. He remembered that he had once felt the same energy from the god of light and the god of darkness. Is this the so-called divine power? Chu Kuangren murmured. Divine power was the power that the deities used. He kept the 7 iron tokens and prepared to study them in the future. Besides, he had gained a lot from the massacre in the demonic realm. He would need to spend some time to organize them when he returned to the Black Heaven sect. Then, Chu Kuangren seemed to have thought of something, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Emperors, it's time to clean up this mess. His voice was not loud. But every emperor heard it loud and clear. However, the emperors did not make a move. Chu Kuangren raised an eyebrow and said coldly, "What? Do you want me to invite you one by one?" This time, his tone was a lot more serious. The sky rumbled, and a bolt of lightning exploded. It was as if the heavens were raging. The emperors could not help but shiver when they saw Chu Kuangren's murderous intent. They did not doubt that if Chu Kuangren really came for them, they would not have a good ending. Whoosh, 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 rays of light came from afar and arrived at the Purgatory Forest. Chu Kuangren, why did you summon us here? The emperor of the Qilin clan, Dark North Xian, snorted and said. Chu Kuangren's eyes turned cold as he raised his hand and unleashed a punch. The terrifying fist wind caused Dark North Xian's expression to change. He tried his best to defend himself, but he was still blasted hundreds of feet away. He felt a tightness in his chest and could not help but vomit blood. I asked you guys to come, but you're not willing? Chu Kuangren, don't be too presumptuous. What? Do you dare to object to my presumptuous behavior? Chu Kuangren said coldly. The murderous intent in Chu Kuangren's eyes gave Dark North Xian goosebumps. He felt like his scalp was about to explode. Dark North Xian stood rooted to the ground, his face extremely pale. I'm asking you a question. Are you deaf? Answer me. Do you dare to object? Chu Kuangren yelled. The emperors who came from all directions were shocked. Good lord, an emperor is just short of being pointed at and scolded. Dark North Xian was extremely frustrated. He was still an emperor after all. He wanted to save face too. How could he swallow his anger in front of so many people? He gritted his teeth. I dare not. You're too quiet. Did you not eat? I dare not. Dark North Xian's face turned red as he yelled. He was afraid. The scene of Chu Kuangren slaughtering the demons and defeating the 7 great demon emperors was still fresh in his mind. No matter how dissatisfied he was, he could only swallow his anger. Beside him, Murong Xian was amazed. Only an emperor could be so frustrated. Only a sect leader could do such a thing. The other emperors were dumbfounded too. Chu Kuangren asked you a question, and you dare not? Where is your dignity as an emperor? Then, do you have any objections? Chu Kuangren glanced at the other emperors and said. Those who were stared at by him did not dare to look him in the eye. No, no. We dare not. Chu Kuangren had single-handedly suppressed the other emperors. Murong Xian and Lan Yu, who were also new emperors, looked at Chu Kuangren with admiration. Even Zi Wuji could not help but admire him. They were all new emperors, but why was the difference between them so huge? Chapter 672. The Church of Fire, the Church of Water, and the Church of Frost Snow have suddenly risen in power in the past few months. Not only that, but there are also many experts among them that we can't even imagine. In just a few months, more than half of the countries and towns in the cloudy wilderness Tao state have gained many believers. Even the Full Moon Kingdom, which worships the White Lotus sage ruler, has suffered a huge blow. Now, many people in the Full Moon Kingdom have turned to the other three sects and worship their deities. At this point, the White Lotus leader and immemorial sage looked a little sad. They felt helpless about the loss of their believers. However, this was something they could not do anything about. Even they had to admit that the deities of the Church of Fire and the other sects were more powerful than the White Lotus sage ruler. They were real deities. In addition, there were countless experts in these sections. If they casually created a few miracles, the cultivators would know what was going on. However, the common people would still worship them in large numbers. Initially, we have no control over who the common people choose to worship. However, from what we know, the Church of Fire and the others have deliberately created a series of disasters to increase their believers, causing countless deaths and injuries in the common people. In the end, they took the opportunity to win over the people. Previously, I encountered the people of the Church of Fire poisoning the water, causing an entire town to suffer from the disease. Almost 1 million people died, and in the end, the people of the Church of Fire appeared as saviors, saved them with the antidote, and lied to them that it was a blessing from the gods. How could the common people understand this? They all became believers of the Church of Fire. This is also the main reason why they could develop to such a level in such a short time. This method is too despicable. The White Lotus leader continued. It was precisely because of this that the White Lotus Society held a deep hatred for those sections. After exposing them, they were instead slandered as a heretical cult, which was why they had brought about the calamity of death upon themselves. Heh, what a consistent style. Chu Kuangren sneered. The method that the gods used to develop their believers was exactly the same as what he had heard when he was chatting with the Chaos Daoist Lord in the Emperor burying coffin. In ancient times, after the gods saw that the human race had become stronger, they also launched a series of disasters in order to obtain more faith energy. When the human race was powerless, they took advantage of the situation. Elder, how do you plan to deal with these sects? Immemorial Sage asked curiously. Chu Kuangren subconsciously tapped his fingers on the armrest of his chair before he stood up and said, Brother Qianyu, would you like to take a walk with me? Immemorial Sage paused for a moment, then nodded, all right. The two of them stood up and walked out of the school of White Lotus. In the Great Moon Kingdom, the citizens, who were originally full of vigor, were now filled with dejection. Their eyes were empty, and their expressions were numb as they walked. They were like walking corpses. These people seemed to have lost the meaning of living. Chu Kuangren and the Immemorial Sage arrived at a plaza. There were a few statues erected there. Those were the statues of the deities that the Church of Fire had erected. Beside them, there was a statue that had been pushed onto the ground. That statue was none other than Chu Kuangren's statue. Previously, Chu Kuangren came to the Full Moon Kingdom to help them purify the demonic qi when the three-headed underworld hound broke out of its seal. Many people were so grateful that they even built a statue for him. But now, the statue was pushed to the ground, and no one cared about it. Chu Kuangren activated his mind power and the statue stood up again. He said calmly, the people have changed a lot. The impact of the destruction of their faith is too great. The White Lotus sage ruler that they've always believed in is only a false god. Anyone would feel terrible if they were in his shoes. Immemorial Sage sighed and said, after a disaster, people will lose their friends and loved ones, and a huge hole will appear in their hearts. They will either let time slowly heal that hole, or they will use other things to fill it up, such as faith. This is also the reason why the Church of Fire is able to grow their followers so quickly. I understand. Immemorial Sage nodded. It was the same for her when she was younger. Because of a disaster, she lost her family and friends. During that time, her heart was extremely empty as if she had lost her goal. No matter what she did, she had no motivation. Later on, she joined the school of White Lotus and worshipped the White Lotus sage ruler. The emptiness in her heart was filled with faith, and that was how she recovered. By exposing the Church of Fire's evil deeds, you're doing it for the good of the people. Unfortunately, your methods are too direct. The people have just experienced a disaster, and the emptiness in their hearts has just been filled with faith. By exposing the Church of Fire, you're digging their hearts out again. Therefore, the people will subconsciously resist. Even if what you say is true, it will naturally lose some of its credibility. Sometimes, it's not that people don't believe it, but they don't want to believe it. Chu Kuangren continued. Upon hearing that, Immemorial Sage frowned. She recalled the time when the Church of Fire's evil deeds were exposed. The people were indeed at a loss and terrified. It was as if they had lost their pillar of support. With just a few words from the Fire God cult and the other cults, the White Lotus cult, which had originally exposed the conspiracy, became the villains instead, and was being beaten and killed by the citizens. It was simply too unimaginable. Elder, are you saying that you want them to continue to be deceived and worship the murderers who killed them? Immemorial Sage felt that it was too ridiculous. However, having been in the school of White Lotus for so many years, she knew that such a ridiculous thing could happen. Of course not. There are ways to change this situation, such as giving them a new faith. Chu Kuangren looked at his statue in front of him and said. Upon hearing that, Immemorial Sage could already guess what he was going to do. She was shocked, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Elder, do you know what you're going to face if you do that? I do. The ones you're going to face are the deities, and not just one or two of them. They're the ancient deities. Immemorial Sage knew that Chu Kuangren had become an emperor. However, an emperor was still human. Could he really defeat the high and mighty deities? Deities? From today onwards, everyone except me is a false deity. Chu Kuangren flicked his sleeves and turned around. A gust of wind blew, and besides his statue, the other deities' statues exploded and turned into ashes. Let's go back. It's time to give those false deities a head-on blow. There's a price to pay for offending the deities. Chu Kuangren said and walked towards the school of White Lotus. Some of the sect's followers were enraged when they saw Chu Kuangren destroying the deity statues. They rushed up to him and wanted to reason with him. However, Chu Kuangren created lotuses with every step he took. The white lotuses surrounded his body, and many of the sect's followers who got close to him were sent flying. When the followers of the school of White Lotus saw Chu Kuangren, who was surrounded by a divine radiance and was surrounded by lotuses, a glimmer of hope appeared in their eyes. Is that the Bachelor Sage? The Bachelor Sage is back. Immemorial Sage looked at Chu Kuangren's back and took a deep breath. The only true God in this world. How exciting. Chapter 673. Chu Kuangren was speechless as he looked at the passionate emperors before him. Their attitude had changed too quickly. It seemed that the heavenly executioner identity was quite useful. After that, he would cast the sealing sword formation and use the emperor weapon as the core to reconstruct the seal on the sword formation that was previously destroyed. Alright, it's time for me to leave. Chu Kuangren said. With that, he led Lan Yu and the others out of the infernal forest. Looking at his departing figure, Honorable Su fell into deep thought. She then summoned the Starform Emperor and said, "Tell me everything you know about this person. The more detailed, the better." Yes. The Starform Great Emperor nodded slightly and told them everything they knew about Chu Kuangren. Not far away from the infernal forest. Before Chu Kuangren and the others left, they found Zhan Hongying, who was taken away by the demon wolf. She was severely injured, and Chu Kuangren used a stream of water qi to protect her. Hence, she was brought back to the Black Heaven sect for treatment. 2 days later. In the marrow-cleansing pool of the Black Heaven sect. A baby-faced woman with a beautiful figure was soaking in the pool. After a while, her eyelashes gently trembled, and she slowly woke up. She looked around in confusion. Where am I? Woo-woo. Beside her, a cry was heard. A demon wolf leaped out from the forest. At the same time, a white-robed woman walked out as well. She glanced at the woman in the pool and said, "You're finally awake. You're Lan Yu?" Zhan Hongying looked at Lan Yu in surprise. She recalled what she saw before she fainted, and she could guess who it was. It was Brother Chu who saved me. Yes. Lan Yu waved her sleeves, and a few pieces of clothing and a mask appeared by the side of the pool. She said, "Master brought you back and used the water qi in the marrow cleansing pool to heal you. These are yours. Brother Chu healed me." "Doesn't that mean?" Zhan Hongying blushed as she looked at her naked body. Lan Yu guessed what she was thinking. "Don't misunderstand, you don't have to be naked for treatment. You were only soaked here after you were almost healed. I was the one who took off your clothes. I just didn't expect the princess of the Ashura tribe to have such a baby face. You're quite cute." The corner of Zhan Hongying's mouth twitched. "I hate it when people say that I'm cute. If it was someone else, I'd definitely smash their head." She chose to wear a mask because her face didn't have much deterrence. Otherwise, when fighting with others, wearing a baby face to say fierce words, it would be so unimposing. In the past, in the Azura race, 9 out of 10 people who teased her because of this face had been beaten so badly that even their parents couldn't recognize them. Zhan Hongying's eyes were filled with sorrow when she thought of the Azura race. Noticing the change in her emotions, Lan Yu fell silent for a moment before saying, "All right, get up. The master wants to see you." Zhan Hongying nodded and put on her clothes. In the towering Heaven Palace, Chu Kuangren was sorting out his loot from the battle in the demonic realm. He had gained quite a lot from this battle. Besides the various demonic stones and potions that were abundant in the demonic realm, there were also a large number of rare demonic beasts' corpses. These corpses were materials for him to study physiques, and there were a few ancient demonic beasts among them. Besides that, he also found a black scroll from a demonic emperor's yin and yang ring. It was the last scroll that he and the 7 Emotions sect were searching for regarding the Emotion Emperor technique. The scroll recorded a monarch art known as the soft sound spectrum. Just like the 8 celestial demonic chords, it was a musical emperor technique. The emotion it represented was infatuation. Chu Kuangren soon understood it. At this point, he had fully understood the 9 emperor techniques in the 9 scrolls. All that was left was to combine them and restore them to their original form. Speaking of which, Chu Kuangren was looking forward to it. After all, it was a cultivation technique that could very well surpass the emperor technique. He was very curious as to what kind of technique it was. The first one would not be profound. Profound was the ultimate interpretation of one's own Tao. It was a technique that belonged solely to oneself, and no one else could learn it. It was not profound, but it was above the emperor technique. It could only be the legendary immortal technique. If it really is that immortal technique, then it won't be an easy task to merge the 9 great emperor techniques. Even with my current level of comprehension, I guess it'll take me quite some time, Chu Kuangren murmured. No matter what, he would need to go into closed-door meditation for at least 8 to 10 days. At that moment, the communication compass at his waist vibrated. It was Lan Yu. Lan Yu had sent him a message saying that Zhan Hongying had woken up. Let's meet her then. Chu Kuangren sighed. To be honest, he felt a little sorry for Zhan Hongying. For a promise, the Ashura tribe had suppressed the demonic realm's passageway for hundreds of thousands of years. Because of that, they suffered a series of disasters. Now, their tribe had been wiped out, leaving only Zhan Hongying. Black Heaven Sect, inside the Longevity Hall. The masked Zhan Hongying bowed to Chu Kuangren when she saw him. Thank you, Brother Chu, for saving my life. Chu Kuangren shook his head. The Ashura tribe has sacrificed a lot for Firmament Star. Saving you was a piece of cake. Unfortunately, I was in closed-door meditation at that time and couldn't rescue the Ashura tribe in time. It's not Brother Chu's fault that my tribe met with disaster. I'll definitely avenge them. Zhan Hongying said with hatred in her eyes. The demonic realm has been resealed. I've killed 6 of the 7 demonic emperors. I believe that's enough to comfort the souls of the Ashura tribe's leaders. No, it's not enough. The real culprit has not been caught yet. The real culprit? Tell me about it. Chu Kuangren frowned. There was more to this than meets the eye. When I returned, the demonic realm's army had yet to arrive, but my people were already killed. I saw, Zhan Hongying recounted everything that she had seen and heard. Chu Kuangren fell into deep thought. The person who wiped out the Ashura tribe and broke my sword formation is someone else. And there's only one person who can do this. That person must be at least an emperor. Anyone who was not an emperor could not break his sword formation. Could it be an emperor from the demonic realm? Chu Kuangren's emperor's thoughts surged and he arrived at the purgatory forest. He entered the void and carefully observed the sword formation in the void. Then, he performed the spatial conveyor technique. He retrieved one of the swords from the sword formation from hundreds of millions of kilometers away. He ran his finger across the sword's body and sensed a faint chilling chi. Chilling chi. Did the person who attacked the sword formation specialize in cold-based Daos? An emperor who specializes in cold-based Daos. There were indeed some emperors in the firmament star who specialized in cold-based Daos, but it was hard to determine if they were the culprits. I'll investigate this matter. I won't let the Ashura tribe's people die without knowing why, Chu Kuangren said solemnly as he sheathed his sword. Thank you, Brother Chu. What's your plan now? I'm homeless now. I don't know if the Black Heaven sect would mind having another mouth to feed. Of course, if it's within my capabilities, I'll help, Zhan Hongying said. Oh, you wish to join the Black Heaven sect? That's what I was thinking. Ha, the Black Heaven sect welcomes you with open arms. Chu Kuangren laughed. Zhan Hongying was a skypride who was second only to him on the Soaring Dragon leaderboard. In this era of the Great Dharma emergence, she had a high chance of becoming an emperor. He had no reason to reject a future emperor from joining the Black Heaven sect. Chapter 674. The 2 words false deity echoed in the void as Chu Kuangren descended from the sky with his majestic emperor's poise. His body was shrouded in divine light, his black hair fluttered in the wind, and his white robe was as white as snow. Chu Kuangren's arrival was witnessed by all the cultivators in the city. They could not help but be shocked when they looked at him. How dare you slander a deity? A furious roar came from the temple. A figure flew out. That person was in a fiery red robe, holding a scepter in his hand, and his body exuded a powerful emperor's poise. Oh, an unfamiliar emperor's poise. Shall AI analyze it for me? Chu Kuangren smirked and called out to the omniscient spirit in his mind. Connecting to the universal consciousness, wait a minute. Chu Kuangren suddenly interrupted the omniscient spirit in his mind. Don't give me a bunch of useless information like you did yesterday. Master, what do you want? Combine it with reality and give me the information I need. Aren't you just making things difficult for me? The omniscient spirit said helplessly. The information contained in the universal consciousness was so vast that even a rock could retrieve a lot of information. Not to mention a living emperor, an emperor who had lived for countless years. The amount of information contained within him was extremely huge. Can't do it? Chu Kuangren teased. I'm the omniscient spirit. Connecting to the universal consciousness. Connection successful. Beginning analysis of the target. In an instant, the information of the current emperor appeared in his mind. It really is an emperor from the myriad deity sect. Chu Kuangren glanced at the emperor in front of him and gently pressed his hand down. Without saying a word, the emperor was immediately enveloped by a terrifying force and was forcefully smashed into the ground. Senior Elder. Senior Elder, how could this be? Countless Fire God sect's followers were shocked. The Senior Elder had an extremely high status among the followers and could use divine power. Yet now, he was knocked down by Chu Kuangren with a single slap. This had a huge impact on everyone's faith. Who the hell are you? The senior elder stared at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. No matter what, he was still an emperor. Yet, in front of Chu Kuangren, he did not even have the strength to fight back. "I'm your deity," Chu Kuangren said. "Nonsense. How dare you impersonate a god?" In the temple, a middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous robe and a crown slowly walked out, holding a red crystal in his hand. This person's emperor's aura was even stronger than that of the great elder. This person had reached the 8th layer monarch realm. At this moment, at the other two ends of the city, there was a huge burst of energy. One of them was the surging power of water, and the other was the aura of frost that seemed to be able to freeze everything. A woman in a blue robe holding a scepter and a white-haired old man walked through the air. The emperor's aura they exuded was no weaker than the middle-aged man's. They were both in the 8th layer emperor realm. It's the sect masters. The sect master of the fire god sect, the sect master of the water god sect, the sect master of the ice god sect. That's great. With their arrival, they'll definitely be able to eradicate this heretic. The sect leaders are all God's emissaries. They can use God's power. They can definitely defeat this heretic. Everyone looked at the three sect masters with great anticipation. Meanwhile, the fire god religious leader looked at Chu Kuangren and sensed the domineering aura from his body. A serious look appeared in his eyes. Then, an extremely powerful aura gradually erupted from his body. Within the emperor's aura, there was a vast amount of divine aura. Countless followers could not help but kneel and worship him. "Heretic, feel the power of the gods," the fire god religious leader said loudly. Suddenly, a tall figure shrouded in flames appeared behind him. It was the Flame Master God. "O Frost God, grant me your power." The white-haired old man, who was the Ice God religious leader, had a sincere look on his face. A vast amount of divine power and emperor's aura intertwined on his body, forming a figure surrounded by snowflakes. That was the Frost Master God. The Water God religious leader also channeled his power and activated the Water God's power. In an instant, the power of the three overgods descended and turned into three huge divine figures. They stared at Chu Kuangren with murderous intent. The three overgods were still in the seal. Only their subordinate deities had escaped and were collecting faith energy for them to speed up the process of unsealing. Anyone who tried to stop this process was an enemy. It's a god. A god has descended. Our god's divine aura is vast, and he shall be the ruler of the firmament. Countless followers were extremely excited when they saw the divine figures. Some of them even knelt on the ground with a face full of devotion and fanaticism. "Heretic, slay!" The three divine figures attacked at the same time. The power of water, fire, and ice erupted and swept towards Chu Kuangren. Each of the three powers had reached the 9th emperor realm. When they erupted together, it was as if they could destroy the heavens and earth. "You're the ones who should be slain, false gods," Chu Kuangren said calmly. With a lift of his arm, the power of 10,000 Taoist avatars erupted. The three divine powers blasted over, but they were shattered by a single punch. Terrifying energy swept out, causing the entire city to shake. Below, the fire god religious palace collapsed one after another. Countless divine statues fell to the ground and were trampled by the panicking crowd. "False deity, you dare to call yourself the flame deity. However, do you know what a true divine flame is?" Chu Kuangren looked at the Flame Master deity's shadow and slowly raised his arm. Crimson phoenix flames gushed out. The phoenix flames were the essence of all flames. Even the Flame Master God's divine flame might not be comparable to it, let alone the Flame Master God that Chu Kuangren was facing. Although they were both at the 9th emperor realm, there was a difference in the quality of their emperor essence and emperor's Tao. In the blink of an eye, the phoenix flames engulfed the Flame Master God and burned away all of his divine powers. That scene shocked countless followers. The Flame Master God was burned to death? For the countless followers of the Flame Master God, this was simply way too impactful. Even the master of the Fire God cult was dumbfounded. burning the flame master god to death? Was there anything more unbelievable than that in this world? This is the true divine flame. Chu Kuangren said calmly with his hands behind his back. Crimson phoenix flames surrounded his body, and behind him were 10,000 Daoist avatars. Every move he made was filled with an unshakable heavenly might. False gods, it's your turn. Chu Kuangren looked at the Frost Master God and the Water God's shadow. As he lifted his arm, mysterious heavenly punishment Daoist patterns flowed on his palm. The power of heavenly punishment. Impossible. You're a heavenly executioner. The Frost Master God and the Water God's pupils dilated. The heavenly executioner was the sworn enemy of all the gods. Wrong, this is heavenly punishment. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then, two giant azure runes appeared above the Frost Master God and the Water God. It was an Emperor-grade thunder talisman. With the help of the heavenly punishment Daoist patterns, the power of the thunder talisman skyrocketed, and its destructive power against the gods was unimaginable. Amidst the thunderous rumble, the two deities' shadows were shattered, and the two sect leaders were blasted away by the force. Chu Kuangren stood in the air with his sleeves fluttering in the wind. He shouted, I am true God Black, the only true God in this world. When I descend, all false gods shall perish. Chapter 675. Inside the Towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren was meditating on the immortal techniques with his eyes closed. After 10 days, he had finally combined the 9 great emperor techniques into a brand new cultivation technique. The fluctuations of this new cultivation technique spread outwards the moment it was formed, resonating with the heavenly Tao. Countless cultivators and mortals in the entire firmament star were affected by the fluctuations of this cultivation technique. They lost control of their emotions and fell into chaos. When Chu Kuangren noticed this, he immediately stopped the cultivation technique and exclaimed, what a powerful Daoist fluctuation. It's above Daoist rhymes and Daoist patterns. Is this the legendary immortal Tao? The immortal technique hidden immortal Tao. After 10 days of research, he had restored the true nature of this cultivation technique. However, he still needed more practice to fully master it. After all, it was an immortal technique. With Chu Kuangren's current cultivation realm, he was still far from being able to fully unleash the power of this immortal technique. However, it was undeniable that he had undoubtedly grasped another extremely powerful trump card after grasping this immortal technique. The 7 Emotions Illusory Melody. This immortal technique is truly extraordinary. Chu Kuangren murmured. The 7 Emotions Illusory Melody was the name of this immortal technique. It was a technique that specialized in attacking one's mind. It could affect a cultivator's emotions and cause them to fall into an illusion that they could not escape from. Cultivators who did not have a strong Daoist core or cultivation base would be like fish on a chopping board in front of this immortal technique, waiting to be slaughtered. When he walked out of the Towering Heaven Palace, Lan Yu and the others were waiting for him. When they saw Chu Kuangren coming out, their eyes were filled with resentment. His emperor's thoughts swept across and noticed that the Black Heaven sect disciples were not in a good mood. Some of their eyes were bloodshot as if they had just cried. Chu Kuangren pondered and immediately understood what had happened. Well, during my closed-door meditation, I accidentally lost control of my emotions. I'm sorry. Chu Kuangren laughed awkwardly. Sect leader, what did you do to cause the Black Heaven sect disciples to lose control of their emotions? This is too strange. Murong Xian asked curiously. It's nothing. I just mastered an immortal technique. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Oh, I see. Murong Xian came to a sudden realization. His face stiffened as he stared at Chu Kuangren. He gulped and said, Sect leader, what did you just say? Say it again. It's nothing. I just grasped an immortal technique. Immortal magic. Murong Xian let out a strange cry. His voice was raised by a few dozen degrees. Lan Yu, Ling Ningyu and the rest were stunned. An immortal spell. There were actually immortal spells in this world? All along, celestials had only existed in legends. As for the so-called celestial techniques, they were even more illusory. No one had ever seen them before. Now, Chu Kuangren said that he had mastered an immortal technique. How could anyone believe this? Sect leader, are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking? Chu Kuangren blinked and said. No, I'm just curious. Why don't you experience it yourself? A playful smile suddenly appeared on Chu Kuangren's face. He pointed his finger at Murong Xian and a strange Taoist fluctuation appeared. There was no earth-shattering explosion or collision sound, there was a faint sound of music in the air. It was the sound of the Tao. The Tao music sounded like it was crying and lamenting. Murong Xian was affected by it. His eyes gradually turned red as he knelt on the ground and said sadly, if there's an afterlife, I'll never be human again. I've been a failure in my life. Sob sob, a dignified emperor was actually crying like a little girl. Lan Yu, Ling Mingyu, and the others widened their eyes. What happened? Master, what did you do? Lan Yu asked curiously. Nothing much. I just amplified his feelings of inferiority. Consider it a small application of this immortal technique. Chu Kuangren smiled. Emotions? Could it be that scroll? Ling Mingyu asked as if she had thought of something. Chu Kuangren nodded. Yes. Then, he took out the 9th scroll and said, this is the last scroll. Take it as a gift from me to the 7 Emotions sect. As for whether you can combine it into an immortal technique, it's all up to you. The immortal technique was extremely mysterious. Although Chu Kuangren had understood it, he did not have the ability to pass it down to others. An immortal technique could only be understood, not taught. If the 7 Emotions sect wanted to learn this immortal technique, they would have to rely on themselves. However, from Chu Kuangren's point of view, the possibility of the 7 Emotions sect learning this immortal technique was almost zero. After all, not everyone had his level of comprehension. Of course, after tens of thousands of years of deduction, it was not impossible to grasp it. There was still hope. It took him 10 days. Thank you, Brother Chu. Ling Mingyu took the scroll and planned to send it back to the 7 Emotions sect after some time. How long is that sect leader going to cry? Lan Yu pointed at Murong Xian, who was still half kneeling on the ground. He was exuding a dejected aura and looked like he had lost all hope in life. Yes, in about 4 hours. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Chu Kuangren did not use his full strength in that technique. Otherwise, Murong Xian would have killed himself on the spot. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he thought of something. If I can control the strength of this illusory 7 Emotions song, I might be able to use it to train the disciples' Taoist core. Chu Kuangren murmured. Lan Yu could not help but mourn for the disciples when she heard his words. Far away in the ocean. Inside the Qilin clan palace, Dark North Xian was cultivating when he suddenly felt a tightness in his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. D***amenit. D***amenit. With a knot in my heart, I can't calm down and cultivate at all. Dark North Xian could not help but recall the scene of him being humiliated by Chu Kuangren in the Purgatory Forest. As an emperor of the Qilin clan, he was questioned by Chu Kuangren and suppressed to the point that he could not do anything about it. Every time he thought of that, he felt like a ball of fire was burning in his heart, making him restless and about to explode. You took the emperor weapon of my Qilin clan emperor, injured me in the Snow Dragon Mountain, and humiliated me in front of the emperors in the Purgatory Forest. Chu Kuangren, you deserve to die. But now, he's a heavenly executioner. What can I do? The heavenly executioner was one of the highest-ranking people in the human race. Even a Taoist master would not dare to say that he was more powerful than the heavenly executioner. That status alone was already unshakable. TSK, do you want revenge? Do you want power? A deep voice suddenly came to Dark North Xian's ears. Who's there? Dark North Xian's expression changed. However, when he looked around, he did not see anyone. Who I am isn't important. What's important is that I can avenge you and give you power to fight against Chu Kuangren. That deep voice carried a bewitching intent. Dark North Xian was on guard. Why, don't you want revenge anymore? Do you want to be suppressed by Chu Kuangren forever? You're an emperor of the Qilin clan. You not only represent yourself, but also the pride and glory of the Qilin clan. Think about it carefully. Once you've thought it through, come to the underwater valley. Dark North Xian's expression changed. The underwater valley, however, that voice had already disappeared, leaving Dark North Xian alone on the spot with an uncertain expression. Chapter 676. In a dark, sunless underwater valley. Today, the emperor of the Qilin clan, Dark North Xuanzi, arrived. Just as he stepped into this place, the strange voice sounded again. Dark North Xuanzi, you're finally here. What do you want me to do? Dark North Xuanzi asked with a dark expression. He felt that he must be crazy to do such a thing. Otherwise, why would he be here? It's simple. Break the stone tablet that's suppressing us. As long as you release us, no one will ever look down on the Qilin clan again. No one will be able to trample on your dignity. You will become a god. The voice was bewitching. A god? Dark North Xuanzi's eyes lit up. Right, I have a godhood in my hands. As long as you release us, not only will I avenge you, I'll even bestow this godhood to you. As long as you refine this godhood, you'll be the new sea god. The power of the ocean will belong to you. Dark North Xuanzi was tempted. He looked into the depths of the underwater valley, where there was a faint light. The light was emitted by a stone tablet. The stone tablet was 9 zhang tall and covered in countless Dao patterns. Dark North Xuanzi took a deep breath and flew towards the stone tablet. Then, he struck the stone tablet with his palm. However, the stone tablet didn't budge under the impact of the emperor's aura. This stone tablet was set up by the ancient emperors to suppress the gods of the ocean. It's very difficult for me to break it with my current strength. Dark North Xuanzi frowned. If the seal of the gods could be broken so easily, the gods wouldn't have been suppressed for so many years. He tried a few more times but to no avail. It seems like you're too weak. The voice sounded disappointed. Then, it continued, head to the ocean sky ruins. That's where we used to live. There's a divine weapon there. Go and get it, then break the seal. Then, a blue light flew out from the valley and entered Dark North Xuanzi's body. This divine power can ensure that you can come and go as you please in the ocean sky ruins. But remember, after you reach our palace, take the divine weapon and leave. Don't stay for too long and don't destroy the palace. We have set up a divine power restriction there that will be activated if it's destroyed. The ocean sky ruins? I got it. Dark North Xian nodded. On the other side, in the Black Heaven sect. Ever since Chu Kuangren had mastered the 7 emotions illusory melody, he had used this immortal technique to create a hidden illusory secret realm as a place for his disciples to train their hearts. He forced every disciple to train their hearts there. Now, in front of the illusory secret realm. One by one, the disciples lined up, waiting to enter. Every single disciple who went in had a complicated expression on their faces when they came out. Some had flushed faces, some were terrified, and some were so ashamed that they wanted to kill themselves. Everyone was different. However, when he looked at the disciples who had yet to enter, his heart trembled with fear. He had no idea what these people had experienced inside. What the hell did the sect leader come up with? A disciple looked at the cave-like illusory hidden realm in front of him and couldn't help but swallow his saliva as he said nervously. There were also some disciples who wanted to sneak away, but they were discovered by Nangong Huang, Shang Qingxue, and a few other Taoists who were supervising them. Thus, they quietly increased the time they had to stay in the illusory secret realm. Inside a palace. Chu Kuangren, Elder Rian, and a few other Taoists were gathered together. In front of them was a huge bronze mirror. The bronze mirror could show the things that these disciples had encountered in the illusory secret realm, as well as the state of their Taoist core. At that moment, the bronze mirror showed a disciple who was immersed in the illusion of a beautiful woman, unable to extricate himself. He was surrounded by beauties, and it was a joyful sight. However, those beauties turned into skeletons and evil spirits in the blink of an eye, demanding his life. That disciple was so scared that he screamed. Taoist core, low grade. Remember this disciple. Let him come to the illusory secret realm more often in the future. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and said. All right. Elder Rian took the notebook and wrote it down. According to the disciples' performance in the illusory secret realm, they divided their Taoist core into low, medium, high, and superior grades. Now, less than a tenth of them could achieve a high-grade Taoist core. As for the superior grade, there were even fewer of them. Only Lan Yu, Nangong Huang, and a few others could achieve that. Chu Kuangren planned to make these disciples' Taoist core reach a high grade no matter what. It did not matter if their talents were poor, but their Taoist core must be trained. Later on in cultivation, one's Taoist core would often play a decisive role. Sect leader, I like you. The illusory secret realm underwent another round of realm changes. This time, it was a female disciple. She was standing under a peach tree, and Chu Kuangren was standing opposite her. He smiled at her and cupped her face in his hands. What a coincidence, me too, inside the palace. Low-grade Taoist core, and you even have bad intentions towards the sect leader. Double the training, Chu Kuangren said. Elder Rian looked helpless. At the side, the elders also looked at each other in dismay. How many has it been now? I think it's the 7th. I wonder how many there will be. These female disciples all want to be with the sect leader. I'm so envious. Envious my *SS, you shameless old man. The illusory secret realm could create all kinds of illusions. It could be said to be a cultivator's greatest fear or desire. What a coincidence. Chu Kuangren was the dream lover of countless female cultivators in the Black Heaven sect. Hence, it was normal for such illusions to appear. Just as Chu Kuangren was testing everyone with the illusory secret realm, an extremely powerful energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from the bottom of the sea. This aura. A hint of surprise appeared in Chu Kuangren's eyes. Murong Xian, Lan Yu, stay here in the Black Heaven sect. I'll go take a look. Chu Kuangren sent a voice transmission to the 2 new emperors of the Black Heaven sect. Then, his figure disappeared on the spot. He cast the spatial conveyor technique and arrived at the surface of the sea. A white light was blossoming in the sea, and it faintly revealed a strange aura. That aura was extremely familiar to Chu Kuangren. That was divine power. Divine power aura. What's going on? Chu Kuangren said in surprise. Then, the white light on the surface of the sea became brighter and brighter, and a magnificent palace emerged from the sea. White jade was used as the bricks, coral was used as the decorations, and countless crystals were embedded in every corner of the palace with countless Taoist patterns flowing on them. Just this palace alone was already very valuable to an emperor, and those gemstones all contained rich spiritual qi. Besides that, the palace also contained a faint divine power aura as if a certain deity had once lived here. Could this be the godly secret realm that Heavenly Honorable Su mentioned? Chu Kuangren murmured while stroking his chin. Yes, this should be one of the godly secret realms. A voice came from the sky. It was Heavenly Honorable Su. Besides her, there were a few other emperors beside her. Those emperors stared at the palace that had suddenly appeared before them with burning eyes. That's the blood coral tree. Rumor has it that this item can help an emperor's cultivation level to break through quickly. It's been extinct since ancient times, but I can't believe it's here. What a surprise. And those gemstones, many of them are worth as much as an emperor-grade spiritual source. Oh my God, there are thousands of them here. To be able to live in a palace like this and have treasures of this scale, the previous owner of this palace must have been at least a higher celestial. These deities have really looted a lot of treasures. Chapter 677. Deep Under the Sea. Dark North Xian looked at the floating palace with reluctance in his eyes. So many treasures. You've lucked out. Then, he looked at the black axe in his hand and smirked. But now that I've gotten my hands on the divine weapon, I can help those deities break the seal and obtain that godhead. He was already looking forward to it. As long as he could obtain that godhead and refine it, he would become the new Neptune and control the boundless power of the ocean. When that time came, would he still have to worry about not being able to defeat Chu Kuangren? With that thought in mind, he left the oceanic ruins. When the divine palace appeared, the emperors of Firmament Star had already sensed it and rushed towards the divine palace. Everyone wanted a piece of the pie. Before long, dozens of emperors were already on the surface of the sea. On a certain mountain peak. The mysterious person in the black cloak could not help but laugh out loud when he saw that. We've really gotten lucky this time. Initially, we wanted to use the demonic tribe to distract these emperors, but Chu Kuangren stopped us from doing so. Now, we have the divine palace to deal with. Now that the sealed areas are unguarded, it's the best time to break the seal. Everyone, let's get ready. As soon as she finished speaking, black figures appeared from the void behind her and dashed in all directions. These people were all cultivators from the myriad deity sect. They only had one goal, to free the deities and return Firmament Star to the ancient era of deities. The divine palace floated steadily on the surface of the sea, but it was not affected by the waves. Instead, it emanated a majestic divine glow. Let's go in. Some emperors eagerly rushed into the divine palace. Upon entering the divine palace, that emperor eagerly dug out a gemstone that he had his eyes on from the wall. Just as he took the gemstone away, the entire divine palace suddenly trembled. Then, countless streams of water gathered from all directions and turned into water soldiers that emanated a cold murderous aura. Those who invade the divine palace shall be killed. The water soldiers stared at that emperor and said coldly. Instantly, hundreds of soldiers rushed out. Each of them had the combat strength of an Emperor Realm expert. The top ones even had Emperor Realm combat strength. They were really strong. Oh no, this is a restriction set by the deities. Celestial Venerable Sue's expression changed slightly. She raised her hand and struck out with her palm. Dao patterns interweaved and spread out like countless chains, strangling all the water soldiers to death. Only then did he manage to save that emperor's life. Many thanks, Empyrean. The emperor thanked Empyrean Su with lingering fear in his heart. It's still too early to thank me. Celestial Venerable Su looked around with a grave expression. She saw the endless power of water rushing towards the divine palace. The power of the water condensed into soldiers in the void. In the blink of an eye, they were surrounded by thousands of soldiers. It's just a restriction set by a god, yet it's so powerful. What kind of god is this? Some emperors couldn't help but gulp. Celestial Venerable Sue's expression was rather grave as she said, this is at least a higher god, and his strength isn't bad among higher gods. Gods were divided into lower gods, middle gods, upper gods, and main gods. Even the most ordinary lower deity had strength comparable to a heavenly venerable. Sovereigns were comparable to Tao Lords. I'll suppress the restrictions in this palace. Celestial Venerable Su said. She took a step forward, and countless Taoist patterns spread from her body. An extremely overbearing emperor's chi spread out with her as the center. The emperor's chi and Taoist patterns intertwined and formed a huge domain. The howling sea breeze stopped, the rolling waves stopped, and the clouds in the sky stopped moving. In fact, they seemed to have become even bluer. At that moment, everyone felt as if they had been separated from the original world they were in and had fallen into another unfamiliar world. Even their own Taoist insights felt like they were being suppressed. Chu Kuangren was a little familiar with this feeling. It was similar when he was in the demonic realm domain. However, that was cast by the 7 great demonic emperors using 7 iron tokens that contained divine power, and it was done by Celestial Venerable Su alone. Is this the Heavenly Venerable small realm? Chu Kuangren murmured. The biggest difference between a Heavenly Venerable and an ordinary emperor was that a Heavenly Venerable's understanding of Taoism had been traced back to the source and came into contact with the essence of the world. From there, they would be able to master the realm energy. The small realm was a technique that only a Heavenly Venerable could master. Once the small realm appeared, the soldiers that were formed by water were shrouded by an invisible force and shattered one after another. I've used the small realm to suppress the Divine Palace's seals here. However, I need to focus on maintaining the small realm's operation now. You guys can go in and have a look first, Celestial Venerable Su said to the crowd. All right. The Emperor's figures flashed and dashed into the Divine Palace. Chu Kuangren nodded at Celestial Venerable Su and then walked into the Divine Palace. Once he entered, the Divine Power's aura became more obvious. It enveloped almost every corner of the palace. This meant that the deity that lived here was very powerful. Even after so many years, its divine power's aura had not completely dissipated. His treasure locating skill was activated. The fluctuations of countless treasures spread outwards. Chu Kuangren searched through them one by one and kept those treasures into his yin and yang ring. Celestial Venerable Su, who was observing everything with her emperor's thought from afar, was a little surprised. Brother Chu, it seems like you have some kind of method to sense treasures? However, since there were so many divine abilities in this world, she did not really care. Inside the Divine Palace, Chu Kuangren came to a side palace. His treasure locating skill reacted very strongly here. It was obvious that there were great treasures hidden here. However, the palace's door was tightly shut. Chu Kuangren's palm attack only made the door shake a little. For Divine Primordial Sword, Chu Kuangren activated his supreme divine ability. The 4 Divine Primordial Swords' power converged into a sword and slashed at the palace's door. With a loud explosion, countless Taoist patterns appeared on the door. Divine Power's aura emanated from it. Oh, divine power, is it? Chu Kuangren activated his divine ability again. This time, he added the power of the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern, and the Taoist patterns on the door cracked. With a loud bang, the door was blasted open. Sure enough, the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern is useful. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then walked in. What greeted his eyes was a large pile of rare treasures, but the most eye-catching one was a white crystal that was as tall as a person. This crystal was surging with incomparably surging energy fluctuations, which were completely different from the energy fluctuations of a spirit origin. Although it was also a type of spiritual power, it was not as easily absorbed by cultivators as spiritual sources. Moreover, it had a similar aura to divine power. However, it made no difference to Chu Kuangren. As long as it was a foreign energy between heaven and earth, be it spiritual power or anything else, his universal cauldron physique could absorb it. He flicked his sleeves and kept all the treasures. About an hour later, Chu Kuangren and the others had looted most of the treasures in the Divine Palace. Even the gemstones that were embedded in the walls were dug out one by one. We've gained quite a lot this time, one of the emperors said excitedly. Alright, I'm going to keep the mini-world now. You guys should leave the Divine Palace first, Heavenly Honorable Su said. Everyone left the Divine Palace, and Heavenly Honorable Su kept the mini-world. Just when everyone was about to leave, surges of divine power fluctuations suddenly came from several places in the firmament star. Chapter 678. Several prefectures in firmament star began to emit waves of divine power. Heavenly Honorable Su's expression changed. A deity has broken the seal. D*M it, a deity's seal can't be broken by ordinary means. It's the Myriad Deity sect. Her figure turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. Chu Kuangren followed suit. However, when they arrived at one of the sealed grounds, all they saw was a huge crater in the ground. There was no sign of a deity. The same went for the other sealed grounds. The lesser flame deity, lesser water deity, lesser frost deity, and a lesser thunder deity have all broken their seals. The rest of the sealed grounds have more or less signs of being attacked. Fortunately, the seals in those places are more stable and have not been broken. We'll just have to get someone to repair them. Now, let's think about how to deal with the 4 deities that have been broken. 3 are lesser deities, and 1 is an intermediate deity. Looks like we'll have to ask for reinforcements from the Heavenly Honorable Sect. The emperor's thoughts circulated and converged together to communicate. Even the most ordinary deity had the combat strength of a Heavenly Honorable, which was not something an ordinary realm emperor could handle. Currently, Heavenly Honorable Su was the only Heavenly Honorable in Firmament Star. Although she could fight against the deities, she could not split herself into 2. I'll personally report to the Heavenly Honorable Sect about the deities breaking their seals. Heavenly Honorables, it's time for you to come down and do something. Heavenly Honorable Su said. Then, Heavenly Honorable Su gathered the emperors who were heading to the Divine Palace and asked them to hand over the items they had obtained in the Divine Palace. You may keep some of these items, but I'll take the rest and transport them to the front lines, Heavenly Honorable Su said. The emperors at the front lines shouldered the heavy burden of fighting against the Blood Tribe, so they must not fall behind in terms of resources. The Heavenly Honorable Sect was not only responsible for guarding the deity seals, but also to collect resources and transport them to the front lines. The God's secret realm was their main target. The deities had collected too many treasures a long time ago. Looking at the treasures on the ground, some of the emperors were reluctant to part with them. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, did not think much of it. The emperors at the front lines would not be able to retrieve these treasures without the Heavenly Honorable Realm suppression. Besides, it was reasonable for the emperors at the front lines to need resources. There was no reason not to let them fight at the front lines without resources, right? I want this. Then this blood coral belongs to me. I want this gem. All the emperors chose the items that caught their fancy. However, Chu Kuangren glanced at the white gemstone that he had brought with him. It was as tall as an average human. Among all the treasures, this gemstone had the strongest energy fluctuations, yet no one was willing to pick it. He was rather puzzled. However, since they didn't want it, he would take it. Brother Chu, you actually chose this god source? Heavenly Honorable Su looked at Chu Kuangren in shock and said, this divine source is an energy crystal that only deities can absorb. Although it contains a huge amount of energy, it's very difficult for humans to absorb it. No wonder no one chose it. Chu Kuangren muttered. However, he did not want to give up. The source of God was not very useful to others, but to him, it was a precious treasure. With this item, his cultivation would definitely increase by a large margin. Seeing that Chu Kuangren was determined to choose this item, Heavenly Honorable Su no longer tried to dissuade him. Instead, she allowed him to choose some other treasures. It was obvious that she was giving him special treatment because of his identity as a heavenly executioner. Everyone else knew this, but they did not say it out loud. In the deep sea, Dark North Sea Xian-sei took the divine weapon and once again went to the underwater valley. Looking at the white stone tablet in front of him, he raised the black axe in his hand high, channeled all his strength, and slashed it. With a bang, the white stone tablet shattered. Following that, the entire underwater valley shook violently. The seal has finally been broken. How many years has it been? We've finally regained our freedom. The entire ocean was boiling. The underwater valley was suddenly torn apart by an extremely powerful force, and a huge underwater whirlpool appeared in its depths. 2 tall figures walked out of the whirlpool. One of them had a crocodile head and was wearing armor, while the other was an extremely huge, terrifying python that was tens of thousands of feet long. These 2 were the higher deities that were sealed in the depths of the ocean. Crocodile God, Sea Serpent God. The crocodile god looked at Dark North Sea Xian-sei, and a ray of light flashed in his blood-red eyes. Then, he gently raised his hand. The other party's black axe instantly trembled and flew toward him, and he held it in his hand. With the divine weapon in hand, the crocodile god's aura became even more powerful. Dark North Xian-sei swallowed his saliva. He felt as tiny as an ant in front of this god. Qilin clan, you've done well. This is the godhead that we promised you. Refine it well. The crocodile god took out a rhombus blue crystal. It contained an enormous amount of energy and all kinds of mysterious Tao patterns. With just a glance, Dark North Xian-sei was deeply attracted. He took the godhead with an excited expression. However, he did not realize that there was an obscure look in the crocodile god's eyes. Thank you, both of you. May I know what the two of you want to do now? Dark North Xian-sei asked. We'll stay in the Qilin clan for a while and understand the current situation in the firmament world. After all, we've just been revived, and it's not suitable for us to be too ostentatious. It would be bad if we attract the heavenly executioner. At the mention of the heavenly executioner, a hint of fear flashed in the crocodile god's eyes. Beside him, the sea serpent god sneered. The heavenly executioner? During that battle, we were sealed, and they were heavily injured. We don't even know how many of them are still alive. What's there to be afraid of? Don't be reckless, the crocodile god said calmly. Although he had a rough appearance, he was extremely cautious in his actions. Far away from the firmament star, 9 orbs of light floated in the cold universe. There seemed to be figures floating in the light orbs. Those gods have awakened. One of the orbs of light said calmly. Yes, we haven't fully recovered from our injuries. Those lower and middle gods are still manageable, and upper gods can also contend with them. However, if we encounter a Lord God, I'm afraid we won't be able to handle them. How troublesome. Can we send someone else to deal with them? No, the situation in the extraterrestrial battlefield is not optimistic. The blood breeds are moving more and more frequently. We can't divide our forces because of the gods. Gods, let us deal with them. That's right, this is our mission. My injuries are the lightest. After so many years of recuperation, I'm almost fully recovered. Let me take charge of the firmament star for now. One of the orbs of light said. Yes, that's a good idea. Also, I heard that a young emperor has recently appeared in the firmament star who has mastered the power of heavenly punishment. I'm very concerned about this. Old Seventh, you should go and take a look. All right. Old Seventh responded. His orb of light turned into a stream of light and flew toward the firmament star from the cold, dark universe. In the extraterrestrial battlefield, some of the powerful beings had also noticed it. The heavenly executioner is making a move. Let's leave the gods to them. We can't afford to let our guard down in the extraterrestrial battlefield. The gods in the firmament star are starting to stir up trouble. Sigh, what a troubled time. Chapter 679. In the Black Heaven sect, inside the towering Heaven Palace. Chu Kuangren was in a closed-door meditation to refine the source of God. After going through so many changes, he felt a sense of urgency. His enemies were getting stronger and stronger. In the past, most of his opponents were skyprides who were below the Emperor realm. But now, he was up against the deities from a long time ago. He needed to become stronger quickly. 10 days later, Chu Kuangren had completely absorbed and refined the source of God. His cultivation level had also improved from the 4th level of the Emperor realm to the 9th level of the Emperor realm. That was a total of 5 levels of improvement. After all, how many years had it been since he ascended to the Emperor realm? Such a speed of improvement would scare anyone to death. This source of God contains too much energy. If I absorb a few more pieces, won't I be able to ascend to the heavenly honorable realm? Chu Kuangren said in amazement. This source of God was something that only the deities could absorb. However, Chu Kuangren was an anomaly. The appearance of the deities is a crisis, but it's also an opportunity for me. Putting aside the other treasures in the mysterious realms of the gods, just this source of God alone is something that others can't use. This is a huge advantage. Chu Kuangren murmured. After ascending to the 9th level of the Emperor realm, Chu Kuangren did not come out immediately. Instead, he continued to study the power of the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern. The heavenly punishment Taoist pattern was a way to restrain the deities, and it was also one of his most important techniques in the future. Another 10 days later. On this day, as usual, Chu Kuangren was studying the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern. However, he suddenly felt the Taoist pattern on his palm vibrate. It was as if it was reacting with something. What's going on? Chu Kuangren was surprised. Then, he received a message from Elder Ryan. Sect leader, there's a visitor. Got it. Inside the longevity hall, there was a man in a white robe with a faint layer of spiritual light covering his face. His aura was vague and unpredictable, as if he could disappear at any time. However, when Chu Kuangren arrived, he felt that the person standing in front of him was exceptionally clear. Not only that, but the strange reaction of the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern on his body became even stronger. Vaguely, Chu Kuangren had a guess. Heavenly Executioner? Yes. The white-robed man, who was the heavenly executioner who was revered by countless people, stared at Chu Kuangren. His face was covered in spiritual light, and it was hard to tell what his expression was, but Chu Kuangren could sense the curiosity in his eyes. I heard that you have a heaven punishment Tao pattern. I want to see it. The heavenly executioner didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his intentions. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and a Taoist pattern appeared on his palm. When the heavenly executioner saw that Taoist pattern, his body trembled slightly. For some reason, Chu Kuangren felt that the heavenly executioner before him was not quite right. It was as if he was extremely shocked. Then, the heaven executioner slowly raised his hand, and a heavenly punishment rune appeared on his palm. However, Chu Kuangren noticed that his opponent's heavenly punishment Taoist pattern was slightly different from his own Taoist pattern. His opponent's Taoist pattern looked more like a type of rune. The fusion of the heaven punishment Tao pattern and the rune? You can also do this. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. During this period of time, he had been studying the heaven punishment Tao pattern, and this heaven executioner's Tao pattern had given him some inspiration. How is this possible? How is this possible? It's not a heavenly punishment talisman Taoist pattern, but the real deal. It's a genuine heavenly punishment Taoist pattern, the original heavenly punishment energy. The heavenly executioner seemed to be very shocked. He looked at Chu Kuangren and said with a trembling voice, "How did you get this Taoist pattern?" Chu Kuangren then briefly explained about the heavenly punishment seal. I see, my king has never told us about this. The heavenly executioner murmured. Then, he looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated gaze. He did not know if it was an illusion, but the person before him was slowly overlapping with the figure that he admired the most in his heart. Suddenly, a ridiculous thought popped up in his mind. Could it be that my king has come back to life? No, that's impossible. How could something like this happen? The heavenly executioner shook his head and discarded the thought from his mind. He said to Chu Kuangren, I'm now overseeing the heavens, suppressing the power of the deities. You possess the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern, and it's the original heavenly punishment energy. If you need any help, feel free to look for me. Thank you very much. Chu Kuangren nodded solemnly. That was the heavenly executioner's promise. In other words, with the heavenly executioner's promise, even the Taoists would not dare to do anything to Chu Kuangren. After that, Chu Kuangren chatted with the heavenly executioner for a while. He learned that the heavenly executioner before him was called Qi Xing, and there was more than one heavenly executioner. Aside from Qi Xing, the other heavenly executioners were still recuperating because they were severely injured in the ancient battle against the deities. The original heavenly punishment energy, huh? I can't believe there's another person besides my king who wields such power in this endless river of time. Who is Chu Kuangren? After leaving the Black Heaven sect, Qi Xing looked at the sky and murmured. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. Divine Predictor, go and ask him about Chu Kuangren's background. You might find something useful. The Divine Predictor was one of the most mysterious beings in the firmament star. However, it was not difficult for the Heavenly Executioner to find this person. In fact, they had known each other for a long time. The Divine Predictor was very surprised to see Qi Xing. Oh, isn't this Lord Qi Xing? I can't believe you're here in the firmament star. I'm relieved that you're here. I'm here today to ask you about Chu Kuangren. Qi Xing asked directly. The Divine Predictor seemed to have expected his visit, so he was not surprised. He shook his head and said, if you're asking about someone else, even a Taoist master, I can talk to you. But I can't do anything about this person. What do you mean? This person doesn't exist in the past, future, or even the present. His fate seems to have transcended the river of fate and is unpredictable. Upon hearing that, Qi Xing frowned. How is that possible? He's an anomaly. Did you know that this person wields the heavenly punishment energy? Oh, could he be a backup plan left behind by the human king? The Divine Predictor was a little surprised. He had some understanding of the heavenly punishment energy. No, he wields the original heavenly punishment energy. I've only seen that kind of power from the king. Qi Xing said solemnly. Hearing this, Tianjizi took a deep breath as his expression turned extremely solemn. Is what you said absolutely true? Do you think I'd joke with you about something like this? The Divine Predictor took out a bronze mirror and cast a technique into it. Then, countless runes flashed across its surface. What are you doing? This bronze mirror is the treasure of the Phantom Valley's physiognomy lineage. It records the fate of countless great figures throughout the ages. I got it. What do you mean? I've looked up the records of the human king's fate, and there's only one sentence. Does not exist in the past or present, transcends fate. This description is almost the same as Chu Kuangren's. Almost the same fate, the same heavenly punishment energy, and the feeling he gives me. Could he really be? Qi Xing was a little lost. Chapter 685. When I descend, all false deities shall perish. Chu Kuangren stood in the air, his body shrouded in divine radiance. With him as the epicenter, his overbearing aura spread out wave after wave. He had easily destroyed the three divine silhouettes. His terrifying aura, which was even more powerful than that of a true deity, shocked countless people. Ignorant mortals, I am the true God. Only those who believe in me will not fall into the cycle of reincarnation. Chu Kuangren swept his gaze across the crowd. He gently raised his hand and cast the spring breeze healing technique. The surrounding spiritual qi gathered and turned into a majestic rain that enveloped the entire area. Countless living beings bathed in the rain could feel every cell in their bodies cheering in joy. Those who were injured or suffering from hidden injuries or illnesses were all completely healed. Flowers and trees flourished as well. All spirits were in high spirits. This was a carnival of life. To the crowd, the scene before them was like a miracle. God, this is the true God. Some people could not help but kneel on the ground and worship the true God when they saw such a miracle. So the flame deities and the others were only false deities. This is the real God. True God, please forgive our foolishness. Yeah, how could the real flame deity be burned to death by fire? They must be false deities. This is the real God. The true God descends to bless all living beings. This is the best evidence. True God Black Heaven, please accept our worship. The School of White Lotus, no, the Black Heaven sect's disciples took the opportunity to encourage the crowd and praise the true God. Everyone else followed suit and knelt on the ground. True God Black Heaven, True God Black Heaven, everyone was chanting the True God Black Heaven's name. Get up, all of you. What True God Black Heaven? He's just a liar. Don't be fooled by him. The Flame God sect's leader and the others panicked and yelled. Chu Kuangren glanced at them and said, "If you kneel and repent for slandering a true god, I might forgive you. Liar, don't you dare make us surrender. When the other deities break the seal, your true identity as a false god will be revealed." The flame god sect's leader said ferociously. Stubborn. As Chu Kuangren lifted his arm, the Dharma avatar behind him reached out and grabbed the flame god sect's leader and the water god sect's leader. The power of the Dharma form exploded. With a bang, 2 clouds of blood mist bloomed. 2 sect masters had fallen. Upon seeing this, the remaining leader of the Snow sect tried to escape in a flash, but he was blasted into pieces by a 4 symbols primordial soul sword on the spot. If you heretics continue to believe in false gods, you will fall into an endless hell. As Chu Kuangren lifted his arm, an invisible Daoist fluctuation spread and enveloped the members of the 3 sections. It was the celestial art, illusory 7 emotions song. The cult members immediately knelt on the ground and wailed. As they cried, they recounted the mistakes they had committed. "It's our fault. We shouldn't have poisoned the villagers' well water, then saved them and made them believe in the fire god. Boo-hoo, those bandits were actually sent by us. This is all our fault," several members of the church wept. Seeing this, the crowd was dumbfounded. At the same time, they were infuriated. Looking at them, their anger was about to erupt. B****, how could you do such a thing? If it weren't for the true God, we wouldn't know how long we would be kept in the dark. You all deserve to die. Kill them, kill them." With that, no one doubted Chu Kuangren's identity as a true god anymore. Killing 3 great divine shadows with a wave of his hand, displaying a miracle, bestowing grace upon the people. With a single sentence, he made countless disciples of the 3 great sects cry and repent on the spot. Could it be that these weren't the methods of a true deity? Moreover, these sects had used despicable means to gain more followers. After being exposed, no one was willing to believe them anymore. Seeing the suffering of the common people, I've created a sect called the Black Heaven Sect. From today onwards, those who join the sect will be under my protection. With me around, my disciples will live in peace and prosperity. Even after death, they will not fall into the cycle of reincarnation. Chu Kuangren stood in the air, his voice echoing throughout the land. His body was surrounded by a myriad of divine lights, and his 10,000 feet tall avatar stood tall. Countless people knelt on the ground and chanted the name of the true God. True God Black Heaven. True God Black Heaven. After doing all that, Chu Kuangren disappeared. The rest were left to the immemorial sage and the others to handle. They were once in charge of the school of White Lotus, so they were familiar with how to develop a sect. Coupled with Chu Kuangren, a living, true god, there were countless followers who joined the sect. After that battle, the 3 sects of the Cloudy Wilderness Dao Prefecture quickly collapsed. The people who worshipped the fire deity and water deity turned to the true god Black Heaven, and they were even more fanatical than before. In the Cloudy Wilderness Dao Prefecture, the emperor who had observed everything with his emperor's thought could not help but gulp. I can't believe the heavenly executioner would use such a method to deal with the myriad deity sect. How impressive. But is it really okay to do this? He was a little worried. Chu Kuangren's actions were no different from the other deities. They were all developing their followers and harvesting their power of faith. The war against the deities back then was to destroy the faith of the deities. Now, Chu Kuangren had developed a new faith. Is this really okay? At that thought, the emperor reported the matter to the heavenly honorable. In the school of White Lotus, Chu Kuangren, the immemorial sage, the White Lotus leader, and the others were discussing how to develop the Black Heaven sect. In the Black Tiger Dao Prefecture, there's a sect called the Thunder Gods sect that has risen recently. The next step is to eradicate them. Chu Kuangren said with a yawn. There were many types of deities, so there were also many branches in the myriad deity sect. These branches had now come to the Firmament Dao Prefecture to recruit followers for their respective deities and harvest the power of faith. One could imagine that in the future, there would be all kinds of sects appearing, and the Black Heaven sect would have many enemies. At that moment, the communication compass at Chu Kuangren's waist suddenly vibrated. It was a message from the heavenly executioner, seventh executioner. "Oh, you guys can leave for now," Chu Kuangren said to the immemorial sage and the others. The few of them nodded and dispersed. Chu Kuangren turned on the communication compass, and a figure emerged from it. It was seventh executioner. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a complicated gaze. "I heard that you've developed a sect in the cloudy wilderness Dao prefecture, and you even called yourself the true god Black Heaven. What are you trying to do?" "I'm walking the path of the deities so that they have nowhere else to go," Chu Kuangren said calmly. "During the war against the deities, what we did was to destroy the faith of the deities so that the human race would no longer be ignorant. However, what you're doing now is no different from the deities. It's best that you stop immediately," seventh executioner said solemnly. "No, I'm doing this to completely eliminate any future troubles. Not everyone is wise and rational. You guys sealed the deities back then, but why are there still so many people in the human race who believe in them? Not everyone can be like you guys, who possess great power and can fight against the deities. In this world, weak beings are the majority, and faith can make them fearless and strengthen their hearts. The people need a faith, and I shall be that faith," Chu Kuangren said in a powerful voice. Chapter 686. If the people need a faith, then let me be that faith, Chu Kuangren said in a powerful voice. Qi Xing could not help but fall silent upon hearing that. He looked at Chu Kuangren and could not help but think of that person in the past. If the humans need a king to lead them to victory, then let me be that king. That person had also said something similar before. Similar words were equally peerless and high-spirited. The thought in Qi Xing's mind grew stronger and stronger. "I hope you can control the situation. You must know that you are now their faith. Once this faith is destroyed, they will have to bear a greater disaster." Qi Xing took a deep breath and chose to believe in Chu Kuangren. It was just like how they believed in that person without any reason back then. "I know. That's why I will never lose," Chu Kuangren said calmly. After speaking to Qi Xing, Chu Kuangren discussed with Immemorial Sage and the others for a while. Then, he contacted the Black Heaven sect and told them that he would not be returning anytime soon. He asked them to help him with some internal affairs. Late at night, in the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren was cultivating. After a few days of development, the disciples of the School of White Lotus had slowly turned into the Black Heaven sect's followers. Not only that, but the Black Heaven sect was also growing in size. Besides that, Chu Kuangren also noticed something interesting. He realized that he seemed to have gained an additional inexplicable power. That power was illusory, unlike the tangible power of spiritual energy or Emperor Qi. It could not be seen or touched. However, Chu Kuangren knew that this power existed. However, he could not use it. "Shall AI analyze this power in my body?" Yes, the consciousness of the universe is connecting. Once the connection is successful, the target will be analyzed. Analysis successful. This is the power of faith, a type of spiritual power. The specific functions are, Chu Kuangren received the information in his mind. The power of faith. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. This was the power of faith that the deities needed. Can I absorb it? The power of faith is a type of spiritual power. Master's universal cauldron physique can absorb all kinds of energy between heaven and earth. However, this power of faith is not born from heaven and earth, so it cannot be absorbed. It requires a special technique to absorb and use it, the omniscient spirit said. The gods have a way to absorb and refine faith energy. Looks like I'll have to pay more attention to it in the future, Chu Kuangren murmured. Since he was going to become the mysterious true God and accept the worship of billions of living beings, then he couldn't miss out on this enormous power of faith. The other side. In the 10,000 God sect stronghold, a dozen emperors had gathered and were discussing the destruction of the Fire God sect. I can't believe that Chu Kuangren would use such a method to fight against the deities. This guy is really hard to deal with. The cloaked woman gritted her teeth as she spoke. In addition to the last time when Chu Kuangren stopped the demonic realm from invading, Chu Kuangren had ruined the myriad god sect's plans twice in a row. Let's think of a way to deal with this person first. If we don't think of a way to deal with him, it'll be very difficult for us to gain more followers in Firmament Star. An emperor said. Deal with this person? How can it be that easy? This person has the heavenly punishment energy, and his cultivation base is improving at an unbelievable speed. He's already a 9th Emperor Realm cultivator now. Unless it's a heavenly honorable or a deity, who else can deal with this guy? The few deities that we've unsealed are all lower deities and intermediate deities. In addition to the 2 upper deities at the bottom of the sea, they're all being held back by the Heavenly Executioner and Heavenly Honorable Su. They can't do anything unless we can unseal another deity and break this balance. With our current abilities, unsealing those few lower deities is already our limit. If we want to improve any further in a short period of time, we'll need to find the corresponding treasures in the God's secret realm. God's secret realm? I heard that the Thunder God sect has discovered a God's secret realm and is currently excavating it. Perhaps they'll find something useful like a divine weapon or something. The emperors of the myriad gods sect were all talking at once. Beside them, the cloaked lady took a deep breath and said, "We can't put all our hopes on the God's secret realm. Our myriad gods sect has been developing for so many years, we can't possibly be helpless against Chu Kuangren. I've decided to activate the Divine Physique project." The other emperors' expressions changed when they heard her words. "Goddess, you must think this through. We only brought a few divine physiques to the Firmament Star this time. Every time we use them, we'll have one less. This is our trump card against the Heavenly Honorables. Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, is it worth it just to deal with Chu Kuangren? Why don't we find an opportunity to attack him together? I don't believe we can't take him down." The cloaked goddess said, "We'll have to use the divine physique sooner or later. It's more than suitable to deal with Chu Kuangren now." Alright then. Seeing that the goddess insisted, the others did not say anything else. After all, they were not confident that they could deal with Chu Kuangren alone. The Black Heaven sect was developing at a rapid pace. The Fire God sect, the Water God sect, and the Ice God sect had basically collapsed in the Cloudy Wilderness Prefecture and were now under the Black Heaven sect's control. Chu Kuangren then set his sights on another place. Black Tiger Prefecture. That place was guarded by an emperor of the monster clan. And now, in this place, there was also a sect of gods that was expanding at an extremely fast speed. It was a sect called the Thunder God sect. That was also Chu Kuangren's next target. Lord Heavenly Executioner, the sect of Thunder is not to be underestimated. There are 3 emperors in the sect, and they can even borrow the deity's powers. They're very powerful, so you must be careful when dealing with them. Beside Chu Kuangren, a dark-skinned man said. This burly man looked extremely ferocious. His face was fierce-looking, and he had a pair of pale yellow beast eyes. Anyone who was stared at by those beast eyes would feel a chill down their spine. This person was the emperor in charge of the Black Tiger Dao province, the Black Tiger Great Emperor. The Black Tiger Emperor's true form was an ancient ferocious beast. Back in the day, he was also a person who dominated an era. However, he behaved very obediently and respectfully in front of Chu Kuangren. No matter how strong a tiger was, how could it dare to stand shoulder to shoulder with the heavens? The Thunder Deity is one of the 33 Lord Gods of the Celestial Tribe. I heard that he's not weak even among the Lord Gods, Chu Kuangren said with interest. The deities were divided into lower deities, middle deities, upper deities, and Lord Gods. Among the deities in the Firmament Star, there were a total of 33 Lord Gods with a large number of subordinate deities. Most of the followers of the Myriad Deity sect also worshipped these 33 Lord Gods and their subordinate deities. The Fire God sect, the Water God sect, and the Ice God sect that Chu Kuangren had destroyed previously all worshipped the Lord God of Fire, the Lord God of Water, and the Lord God of Ice, as well as their respective subordinate deities. However, even among the Lord gods, there were still differences in strength. The Lord God of Fire, the Lord of Water, and the Lord of Ice were ranked at the bottom of the 33 Lord gods. Compared to the Thunder deity, they were much weaker. According to the records of the human tribe, the Thunder deity's strength was at least in the top 10 among the Lord gods. Chapter 687. Thunder God Cult. Statues of gods were enshrined in the incomparably splendid temple. Countless believers were praying in front of the statues. Some devout believers even worshipped all the statues. But today, all the statues in the shrine began to tremble one by one, shocking all the believers. What's going on? Why are the statues moving on their own? The cultivators of the Thunder God cult noticed it too. They thought that someone was messing with the statues and quickly sent people to check. However, they did not find anything strange. There were no signs of spiritual energy being exerted on the statues. But if it wasn't manipulated, why would the statues move on their own? The cultivators of the Thunder God cult looked at each other in confusion. Just as they were feeling puzzled, the believers were already in a commotion. Why are the statues like this? Is it because we're not devout enough? But I've already handed over my monthly stipend. Me too. Isn't this enough to express our devoutness? Do we really have to sacrifice our lives? How can this God be like this? God, what instructions do you have? Seeing that the believer's faith was shaken, a cultivator of the Thunder God cult quickly stood up and said to the crowd, "Everyone, don't be anxious. God is moved by your devoutness. That's why he's manifesting and responding to you. Please follow me to worship the Thunder God." After the cultivator said that, the rest looked at each other. They seemed to feel that what he said made sense and then knelt in front of the statues. The Thunder God has manifested. The Thunder God has manifested, but as the crowd worshipped and cheered, the statues did not stop trembling. On the contrary, they trembled even more violently. A bunch of fake gods. Do you think you're worthy of being worshipped? A voice was suddenly heard. Then, under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the statues exploded one by one like firecrackers and turned into countless pieces. A formless and terrifying force instantly shrouded the entire shrine. The cultivators of the Thunder God cult rushed out one after another. A white figure slowly descended from the sky above the shrine. The newcomer was tall and slender, with black hair and white clothes. His temperament was extraordinary, and his footsteps were light. However, the instant he landed on the ground, a terrifying force that the earth couldn't bear was released. The entire earth trembled violently, and huge cracks extended out. The entire lightning god palace started to collapse. Countless followers began to flee the palace in a panic. They looked at the white-robed figure with fear in their eyes. "Who are you? How dare you cause trouble in my Thunder God cult? Furthermore, you dare to speak rudely and slander my god." One of the Thunder God sect's cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren. Due to his fanatical faith in the Thunder God, he completely ignored the difference in their auras and glared at Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren glanced at him and unleashed a surge of invisible mind power. Before that cultivator could even react, he was turned into a cloud of blood mist on the spot. A bunch of heretical false gods, they deserve to die. Chu Kuangren said calmly as he slowly lifted his arm and pushed it forward. In an instant, an unimaginably dense surge of energy erupted and surged towards the Thunder God's palace like a tidal wave. With a loud bang, the entire lightning god palace turned into dust that filled the sky. "How dare you!" An angry roar was heard as an elder rushed out from the Thunder God cult and glared at Chu Kuangren. "How dare you insult a god? You're courting death. Thunder God above, I'll lend you some of my power." That elder was one of the emperors of the Thunder God cult. Sensing that Chu Kuangren's aura was not to be underestimated, he did not hesitate to channel his emperor's chi and the Thunder God's power at the same time. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and a large amount of violent lightning bolts filled the sky. The rumbling of thunder resounded across thousands of miles. That elder was shrouded in lightning, as if a deity that controlled the power of lightning was attached to his body. This is the thunder god's power. The senior elder is indeed the thunder god's chosen emissary. He can use the thunder god's power. How amazing! This heretic who insults the god will definitely be punished. Countless thunder god cult's cultivators and followers could not help but look at that scene with fanatical admiration. I'll show you the power of the thunder god. The elder growled, and the lightning energy around him quickly gathered towards him. With a lift of his arm, an incomparably terrifying lightning energy suddenly erupted and smashed towards Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground and gently lifted his arm. With the invincible heavenly Dharma vortex, that energy was easily neutralized and disintegrated. The senior elder's expression changed. How is this possible? The others were also in disbelief when they saw that. How could the thunder god's power be blocked so easily? You think you can hurt me with a mere semi-divinity's power? What a joke! Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He took a step forward and cast the 10,000 avatar as well. A gigantic avatar was formed, and its boundless emperor's poise surged in all directions like a tidal wave. ****. The elder's expression changed, and he channeled the thunder god's power to its limit. A blue figure appeared in the void, and its body was surrounded by the power of lightning as it stared coldly at Chu Kuangren. It was a clone of the lightning god's consciousness. Kill! The lightning god unleashed a punch, and the majestic power of lightning erupted. Even a 9th Emperor Realm cultivator would not be able to withstand such an attack. However, Chu Kuangren had the heavenly punishment Daoist patterns on his body, and when the 10,000 avatar Daoist techniques were added, the ultimate Emperor essence and the perfect Emperor's Dao were unleashed. The 10,000 avatar techniques unleashed a punch, and the combined power of many Daoist physique Daoist techniques instantly exploded. It landed on the thunder god's fist, and in the blink of an eye, it shattered the opponent's lightning energy. The power of the 10,000 Dharma forms bombarded the shadow of the god of thunder with irresistible force. In front of the cultivators of the thunder god's sect and countless believers, it was forcibly shattered. Even the old man was not spared. I am the only true god in this world. A semi-divinity should be destroyed. Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and his back facing the crowd. His emotionless voice reverberated in the sky and exploded in everyone's ears, shocking them. Then, he unleashed the ethereal 7 emotions song. A peculiar Daoist fluctuation spread out and enveloped the thunder god sect's cultivators. Suddenly, these cultivators lost control of their emotions as they knelt before Chu Kuangren and wailed. They then spilled out everything about the thunder god sect's despicable ways of recruiting their followers. All the followers were dumbfounded. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren leaped into the air with a myriad of divine halos surrounding his body. With a spring breeze healing technique, he showed everyone a miracle. God, this is the true God. Thank you, true God. Countless followers knelt on the ground and worshipped him. Then, the people from the Black Heaven sect arrived and began to sing praises of true God Black Heaven's greatness. At the same time, they also reorganized the Thunder God sect. With the experience of dealing with the Fire God sect and the other sects, dealing with the Thunder God sect was very smooth. However, what caught Chu Kuangren's attention was that the Black Tiger Emperor mentioned that there were 3 emperors in the Thunder God sect. However, he had only killed one. The other 2, including the sect leader of the Thunder God sect, were nowhere to be seen. There was also a large group of Thunder God sect's experts who were nowhere to be found. Where did they go? He found a few higher-ups of the Thunder God sect and interrogated them one after another. Only then did he find out that the sect leader and the others had found a secret realm of gods. At this time, they were excavating the secret realm. Chapter 688. The Mysterious Realm of Gods. Interesting. Chu Kuangren had once been to a mysterious realm of gods at the bottom of the ocean. There were so many treasures there that it was dazzling. Now, the Thunder God sect had discovered a mysterious realm of gods. He was not in a hurry to snatch it. After all, those people would return sooner or later. So, he continued to stay in the Black Tiger Daoist prefecture and waited. The Black Heaven sect was developing smoothly. With the arrival of the Black Heaven sect, the Thunder God sect in the Black Tiger Daoist prefecture was basically disbanded, and the people turned to true God Black Heaven. On this day, the Thunder God sect leader and the others had returned. However, once they entered the city, they realized that something was not right. Usually, when they returned, they would be surrounded by a large group of believers. But now, not a single person came to greet them, not even a greeting. Not only that, but they also saw resentment and anger in the eyes of the people, which puzzled the Thunder God sect leader and the others. What just happened? Leader, look. Suddenly, a Thunder God sect cultivator pointed at a collapsed statue in the middle of the plaza, and his expression changed. The Thunder God sect leader looked over, and his pupils shrank too. That was because that statue was of the Thunder God, but now, it was pushed to the ground. Who did this? The Thunder God sect leader felt a little uneasy. He re-erected the Thunder God statue and scanned the entire city with his emperor's thought. At that moment, a huge domineering aura descended from the sky. A white-robed figure, surrounded by thousands of rays of divine radiance, came flying down from the sky. The newcomer was dressed in white and had black hair. He had an extraordinary temperament, and everywhere he went, white lotuses and phoenix flames paved the way. It was as if a deity had descended. A false deity is not worthy of a monument. Chu Kuangren slowly descended and tapped the tip of his foot on the statue. With a loud bang, the statue exploded and turned into dust that filled the sky. Greetings, true God Black Heaven. Greetings, true God Black Heaven. Countless people knelt down the moment they saw Chu Kuangren, their faces filled with sincerity. This scene made the Thunder God sect leader and the others look extremely grim. At the same time, they were in disbelief. What had happened in the past few days? Where did this true God Black Heaven come from? Heretic evil God, how dare you mislead the masses with your lies? Die. The Thunder God religious leader stared at Chu Kuangren. Although he did not know where Chu Kuangren, this true Black God, had come from, it was undeniable that this person had offended the Thunder God and overturned his faith. He raised his arm and activated his Emperor's Chi. A bolt of lightning that resembled a giant python suddenly erupted and blasted towards Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren gently lifted his hand, and an incredibly dense and pure Emperor's Chi surged in his palm, effortlessly shattering the thunderbolts. Heretic, taste divine punishment. With a thought, a series of mysterious runes condensed in the void. There were actually 10 Emperor-grade lightning talismans. The Thunder Talisman exploded. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky. They were many times more powerful than the lightning cast by the leader of the Thunder God cult. Moreover, it also contained the power of the heavenly punishment Dao mark. The cultivators of the Thunder God cult who were below the Emperor realm were instantly turned into ashes by the lightning. Even the leader of the Thunder God cult did not have it easy. His robe was torn apart, and his body was charred black. D****. O Thunder God, please grant me power. The leader of the Thunder God cult roared and activated the power of the Thunder God. A gigantic shadow of the Thunder God suddenly appeared. Chu Kuangren let out a cold chuckle as an incredibly powerful 10,000 Daoist avatar formed behind him. With a single punch, the multiple surges of Daoist physique power and the heavenly punishment Daoist pattern instantly shattered the Thunder God's shadow into pieces. How is this possible? The leader of the Thunder God cult was in disbelief. However, right after that, the Dharma idol behind Chu Kuangren reached out and grabbed him in its palm, crushing him into a bloody mist with its 5 fingers. This kind of power shocked everyone. In the eyes of countless believers, this was the supreme power of God. After killing the leader of the Thunder God cult, Chu Kuangren took his yin and yang ring and left it to Immemorial Sage and the others to clean up the mess. Back at the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren took out the thunder god cult's yin and yang ring and moved everything out with his emperor's thought. Suddenly, a large number of treasures appeared in front of him, including various weapons, supreme elixirs, and the like. All of these treasures combined were equivalent to the net worth of a few hundred emperors. Chu Kuangren could not help but light up. Oh, divine sources. Chu Kuangren found a few divine sources among these treasures. These divine sources were about the size of a soccer ball. Although they did not contain as much energy as the one he found last time, they were not bad either. These divine sources were enough for Chu Kuangren's cultivation to improve further. Not to mention that there were so many other treasures. Looking at these treasures, Chu Kuangren fell into deep thought. Aside from the divine sources, the other treasures were not very useful to him. After all, he was already a 9th Emperor realm cultivator. It could even be said that he was invincible among those below the heavenly honorable realm. I'll pick a few more useful items and leave some for the Black Heaven sect to develop. I'll send the rest to the front lines. Chu Kuangren murmured. The front lines were in a state of emergency. He could not let the emperors at the front lines suffer from a shortage of resources. Although he was not at the front lines now, he wanted to do his part. Then, he picked a few more treasures. Among them, there was an azure crystal that caught his attention. That crystal was prismatic in shape and contained a divine energy. There were also countless complicated Taoist patterns intertwined within it. Shall AI analyze this item for me? Yes, with the spirit of omniscience's ability activated, Chu Kuangren soon understood that this item was the source of a deity's power, a godhead. When a deity was killed, their power would turn into a godhead and fall to the ground. A godhead was extremely tough and almost indestructible. However, it could be refined. When a cultivator refined a godhead, there was a chance that he or she could convert the divine energy contained within the godhead into his or her own body, allowing him or her to master the divine energy. However, by doing so, it was tantamount to transforming oneself into a deity. From then on, one would no longer be able to increase one's cultivation level through acquired cultivation. Instead, one could only absorb the power of faith like a deity. Unless it was a very powerful deity's godhead, a cultivator would consider refining it. Otherwise, any cultivator with a little bit of ambition would not refine it. The godhead in Chu Kuangren's hand was only a lower deity's godhead, so very few people would refine it. Ordinary cultivators absorb a godhead and transform into a deity because their bodies could not adapt to the divine energy. However, divine energy is also a type of strange energy that was born from the heavens and earth. Master has the universal cauldron physique, which can refine all kinds of strange energy between the heavens and earth. This godhead can be refined without any side effects. The spirit of omniscience said. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. This lower deity's godhead contained a huge amount of energy. It was even more powerful than the divine source that he obtained last time. If he could absorb and refine it, he could not help but lick his lips. Perhaps it could help him break through to the Emperor realm. Above the Emperor realm was the heavenly honorable realm. It had only been a few years since Chu Kuangren became an emperor. To be able to break through to the heavenly honorable realm in just a few short years was like a fantasy. Chapter 689. Chu Kuangren had gained a lot from dealing with the Sect of Thunder. He then tidied up his treasures and announced that he would be going into closed-door meditation for a few days. He wanted to refine the divine sources. With the help of the universal cauldron physique, he could refine the resources very quickly. In just a few days, he had completely absorbed all the divine sources. His cultivation had also improved by a certain extent. However, it was still not enough for him to break through to the heavenly honorable realm. The heavenly honorable realm required a lot of energy. Even after Chu Kuangren had absorbed the divine sources, he did not feel like he was close to the heavenly honorable realm. Perhaps I can only succeed if I absorb this lower deity godhead, Chu Kuangren murmured. Without hesitation, he began to absorb the lower deity godhead. While he was in closed-door meditation, The myriad deity sect had begun to take action against him. They could not sit back and watch his Black Heaven sect continue to grow. The Thunder God sect, Fire God sect, Water God sect, and Frost God sect had been destroyed one after another. The other branches of the myriad deity sect were already very wary of Chu Kuangren. If they did not get rid of him first, the remaining members would not be able to develop their sects in Firmament Star in peace. On a mountain peak, the myriad deity sect's disciples gathered. Chu Kuangren must be eliminated. This person might be more difficult to deal with than the heavenly executioners. The heavenly executioners will not create some true black god like him. He's destroying our foundation. One of the Nether God's disciples said coldly. That's right, we can't let him continue like this. If this goes on, the whole world will worship that true black god. What will happen to us then? That's right. This is not just a grudge between us and Chu Kuangren. It's also a battle of doctrines and beliefs. But how do we deal with Chu Kuangren? This person is so strong that no one below the heavenly honorable realm can defeat him. The crowd discussed. Although they wanted to deal with Chu Kuangren, they had to admit that his strength far surpassed theirs. If one or two of them might not be his match, can he handle hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of them? We have countless followers in the myriad deity sect. I don't believe that we can't kill him together, the Nether God's disciple said coldly. The rest of them looked at each other. Isn't this too much of a sacrifice? We've long been prepared to sacrifice ourselves for the gods. It's not impossible for us to kill Chu Kuangren by sacrificing our lives, but I'm afraid that even if we give it our all, we still won't be able to defeat this person. Upon hearing everyone's concerns, that underworld god believer sneered and said, "Everyone, don't worry. I'm an expert in spell formations, so I can set up a large formation to trap Chu Kuangren inside. When that happens, we'll attack together and kill this heretic who insults the gods. Then how do we lure this person to the formation? That's even simpler. Challenge him publicly in the name of the gods. If he wants to maintain his identity as true god Xian Shen, then he will definitely accept the challenge. If he doesn't, then his identity as true god Xian Shen will be destroyed by itself," the believer of the god of the underworld said coldly. Everyone nodded in agreement. Then, they discussed for a while more. After confirming some details, they began to move. By the way, will the goddess participate in this operation? One of the believers asked. The goddess is currently activating the Divine Physique project, so she can't leave for the time being. I don't know how long it'll take for her to activate the Divine Physique project. Now that Chu Kuangren is in the limelight, if he doesn't act now, it'll be even more difficult in the future. That's why I decided to act first. The underworld god believer said. Upon hearing about the Divine Physique project, some of them expressed their shock. The Divine Physique project is our last resort against the Celestial Honorable Assembly. I can't believe we'll have to use it on Chu Kuangren first. I didn't expect something like this to happen before I came down here. Alright, let's get ready. At another location. Inside a cave somewhere. A naked body was floating in midair. It was the body of a man. His facial features were exquisite and handsome, and his body was slender. His skin was as white as jade, and under his skin, mysterious Taoist patterns could be vaguely seen. At the bottom of this body was a huge totem carved out of fresh blood. Around it were all sorts of strange items, such as candlelight, skulls, black soil, and so on. In the cave, there was also a woman in a cloak. She was the goddess of the myriad deity sect. She looked at the floating body in front of her with anticipation in her eyes. Black soil, underworld god totem, demonic corpses, and the strange black candle that contains the underworld god's power. With these mediums, it should be enough to attract the underworld god's will to descend into this divine physique. The divine physique was a technology that the myriad deity sect had spent countless years researching. It was a physique that they created using the power of faith, and it was the closest to the divine physique. Hence, they called it the divine physique. With this divine physique, even if a deity was trapped in a seal, as long as there was a suitable medium, the deities could be attached to the divine physique and unleash the power of a deity. This was much more powerful than the myriad deity sect's pure divine power. Chu Kuangren, you should feel honored that you're using a divine physique to summon the underworld god himself, the goddess murmured. In the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren had absorbed most of the lower deity godheads, and his cultivation and strength had improved tremendously. At this point, the abundance of Emperor's Qi in his body had far exceeded the 9th level Emperor realm, and it was not any weaker than the Heavenly Honorable realm. However, he was not an official Heavenly Honorable yet. He still lacked one more condition, and that was to master the realm energy. Only an Emperor who could master the realm energy and cast a small world could be considered a Heavenly Honorable. To put it bluntly, the realm energy was the understanding of the Taoist Tao. This condition was not difficult for Chu Kuangren. His understanding of the Taoist Tao far exceeded that of ordinary emperors, and he had the Chaos Emperor scripture that was written by the Chaos Taoist master as a reference. He believed that it would not be long before he could master the realm energy and officially break through the Emperor realm to become a Heavenly Honorable. He was not even 30 years old yet. Compared to an emperor's lifespan of 10,000 years or even 1 year, 30 years was too insignificant. A 30-year-old Heavenly Honorable could be said to be unprecedented. Chu Kuangren felt the power within his body and smiled in satisfaction. In a good mood, he decided to do a lucky draw. He opened the fantasy roulette. The lucky draw. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the deity tier reward, the 5 Elemental Shadow Army. The 5 Elemental Shadow Army? Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he opened his inventory. The 5 Elemental Shadow Army was a god-tier reward. It was an immortal army formed by the 5 elemental strength. They were absolutely loyal to their host and could dominate the world. It's an army. And it's a god-tier one. Chu Kuangren was amazed. He retrieved the reward, and a colorful crystal appeared in his palm. This crystal was the vessel that contained the 5 Elemental Shadow Army, which was also the core of this army. When the 5 Elemental Shadow Army died outside, they would return to this crystal to recover and be resurrected after some time. This was also the reason why the 5 Elemental Shadow Army was called an immortal army. Chu Kuangren moved his mind and kept the crystal into his spiritual mound. He would wait for an opportunity in the future to let this army shine. After he came out of his closed-door meditation, he scanned the entire Black Heaven sect with his Emperor's thought. He wanted to see how the Black Heaven sect was developing. However, he realized that Immemorial Sage, the White Lotus leader, and the others were discussing something worriedly. When he listened carefully, he realized that the Pantheon sect had recently released news that the true god Black Heaven was a false god. They would be carrying out a trial on the true god Black Heaven at the Nether Abyss Valley to let the world know who the true god was. Pantheon sect, you've finally declared war on me. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Chapter 690. Immemorial Sage, the White Lotus leader, and the others were discussing how to deal with the myriad deity sect's declaration of war when Chu Kuangren appeared in front of them and said, "I'll go there myself." Brother Chu, since the myriad deity sect dared to declare war on you, they must have gathered quite a number of people. Isn't it too risky for you to go there alone? Immemorial Sage asked worriedly. What's there to be afraid of? They're just a bunch of false gods. Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently. Beside him, Immemorial Sage's lips twitched. Brother Chu, don't you think you're a little too immersed in your role? They knew that Chu Kuangren was not a true god. His cultivation level was only slightly higher, but he was not invincible. You guys don't have to worry anymore. We must go to the Nether Abyss Valley. Otherwise, the world will start to doubt us. If that happens, all our efforts will be wasted. Chu Kuangren smiled. The myriad deity sect's declaration of war against Chu Kuangren had spread throughout the entire firmament star in just a few days. The emperors who were guarding the deity seals had all heard about it and were paying close attention to it. The few deities who had been unsealed also wanted to see how far Chu Kuangren could go. After all, the firmament star's current situation was very unique. The deities, heavenly venerables, and heavenly executioners were keeping each other in check. No one dared to act rashly, and Chu Kuangren had become the key to breaking out of this situation. Once he was dead, the Pantheon sects would be able to continue expanding their followers in the firmament star without fear. They would be able to gather faith energy for the gods and speed up the unsealing process. If he was alive, the day when the gods would be unsealed would be a long time coming. One person can change the entire situation. TSK, if it's possible, I'd like to meet this Chu Kuangren myself. In one of the palaces, a man with long blue hair said in amazement. This person was one of the lower deities who had been unsealed. Beside him were a few other deities. In front of them was a mirror of light, and the mirror reflected a huge valley. It was the Nether Abyss Valley. The Nether Abyss Valley. One of the forbidden areas of the firmament star. However, the situation was different now. The Nether Wolf Gorge was still a forbidden area to others, but it was no different from an ordinary gorge to emperors. They could come and go as they pleased. Since the emperors of the Myriad Deity sect had challenged Chu Kuangren here, the boundary emperors who used to live in the Nether Abyss Valley were all chased out. Now, they were watching from the vicinity of the Nether Abyss Valley. This is the battle of emperors, we can't miss it. Although it's a little displeasing to be chased out, being able to observe the battle of martial emperors up close is also an opportunity. Not bad, the quasi-emperors surrounded the Nether Abyss Valley in anticipation. The other emperor's emperor wills also landed here. Everyone was looking forward to it. In the Nether Abyss Valley, dozens of emperors were gathered together. They were the emperors of the Myriad Deity sect, and they were all waiting for Chu Kuangren's arrival. Are you all ready? The believer of the Nether God said faintly. Yes, the preparations are almost done. Now, we just have to wait for Chu Kuangren to come. If he dares to come, we'll make sure he never leaves. An emperor grunted coldly. Very well. The Lord of the Underworld believer nodded and looked into the distance with a cold gaze. When the deities descend, no one shall be allowed to stand in their way. Chu Kuangren, it doesn't matter if you're a heavenly executioner or someone else. If you dare to stand in the way of the deities, you're destined to die. Time passed. A day and a night had passed. Why isn't Chu Kuangren here yet? In the Myriad Deity sect, some of the emperors were getting impatient from waiting. The other boundary emperors who were watching from the outside and the emperors who were secretly observing were also very surprised. Was Chu Kuangren afraid to fight? What true black god? He's nothing but an undeserved reputation. A false god is a false god after all. He won't amount to anything. That's right. He doesn't even have the courage to face us. The deities of the Myriad Deity sect are the true deities. The emperors of the Myriad Deity sect chattered. Meanwhile, some of the boundary emperors who were waiting outside the Nether Abyss Valley were also getting impatient. Some of them even wanted to leave. How boring. One of the boundary emperors curled his lips and was about to leave. However, a boundary emperor next to him glanced at him and said, "You must be a boundary emperor who only rose to power in recent years." That person was quite surprised. Yes, how did you know? I guessed it. If it were the previous boundary emperors, they would more or less have some understanding of Chu Kuangren. It's possible for anyone to be afraid to fight, but he definitely won't. That boundary emperor said. Upon hearing that, the boundary emperors who were about to leave were very surprised. He looked at the other boundary emperors and found that the older boundary emperors were still looking forward to the fight. They did not have the slightest intention of leaving. Those who were impatient were the new generation of boundary emperors. Is this Chu Kuangren really that courageous? You'll know when you see him more in the future. The older boundary emperors chuckled. He doesn't even dare to accept the challenge. The so-called true black god is nothing but nonsense. One of the Myriad Deity sect emperors said loudly. That's right. The so-called true god is nothing but a coward. "Ha, do you think you're worthy of being called a deity?" The emperor's mocking laughter echoed between the heavens and the earth. However, at that moment, the heavens and the earth suddenly exploded with a loud bang. "Are all of you so eager to die?" The indifferent voice echoed between the heavens and the earth. Countless dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky to form a huge vortex. Within the vortex, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A white-robed, black-haired figure with a magnificent ancient sword hanging on his waist slowly descended from the sky with an unparalleled majestic emperor's poise. It was Chu Kuangren. Outside the Nether Abyss Valley, countless onlookers suddenly became excited. "He's here. He's finally here." Although we knew he was already an emperor, such a terrifying aura far surpasses the average emperor. What realm is he in now? Is this the true Black God? Chu Kuangren landed on one of the cliffs of the Nether Abyss Valley amidst the astonished and shocked gazes of countless people. The moment he landed, an incomparably violent surge of palm chi spread in all directions with him as the epicenter. Boom, 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 the earth shook and exploded. As if the earth had encountered an unbearable weight, the mountains crumbled and the ground cracked. In an instant, the entire Nether Abyss Valley had collapsed. That was only the release of Chu Kuangren's aura. He had not officially made his move yet. However, that alone was enough to shock everyone. Even the emperors who were secretly observing could not help but gasp. Sensing Chu Kuangren's current aura, they felt like their scalps were about to explode. What a terrifying emperor's chi. It's definitely not something a 9th-level emperor realm cultivator can compare to. What realm is he in now? Has he become a heavenly venerable? No, I can't sense any realm energy from his body. He probably hasn't become a heavenly venerable yet, but his aura has far surpassed a 9th-level emperor realm cultivator. He can be considered a half-step heavenly venerable. How long has it been since he became an emperor? How can he grow so much already? This guy is growing too fast. Chapter 691. Chu Kuangren descended upon the Nether Abyss Valley. As his majestic emperor /s poise swept across, the entire Nether Abyss Valley was instantly torn apart. The emperors of the myriad deity sect /s gazes became extremely solemn. This aura is extraordinary. Half-step heavenly venerate. It looks like we've underestimated him. If he could control the world energy, he would immediately become an heavenly venerate. It looks like we've underestimated him. Humph. No matter what, we must keep this person here today. Activate the Netherworld Great Formation, the Nether God believers shouted. In an instant, black mist suddenly appeared in various parts of the Nether Abyss Valley, turning into black chains that soared into the sky. They crisscrossed in the air, forming a powerful restraining force. The entire Nether Abyss Valley was locked down by this force. Even emperors couldn't enter or leave, and this shocked many people. What a powerful formation technique. Is the myriad deity sect planning to use this technique to fight Chu Kuangren to the death? Can they really do it? Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. At this moment, figures walked out from the void one after another. Chu Kuangren shall be slain by us, the Tempest deity. An old man dressed in a green robe shouted loudly. He was a follower of the Tempest Master God. The followers of the Thunder God's bloodline are also irreconcilable with you. The survivors of the Thunder God sect also glared at Chu Kuangren. I, the Earth Sovereign, cannot tolerate a heretic like you. Chu Kuangren, I'm a follower of the King Kong Lord deity. Today, you're destined not to live through this judgment of the gods. Flower God above, help me get rid of this heretic. God of the underworld, one by one, the followers of the myriad deity sect appeared. Each of them wanted to represent their respective deities to put Chu Kuangren on trial and eradicate him. In the blink of an eye, the sky above the Nether Ghost Valley was filled with countless cultivators of the myriad god sect. All kinds of divine power erupted and filled this part of the world. The pupils of all the spectating cultivators couldn't help but constrict violently, and they gulped while their hearts shook greatly. There are so many of them, and every one of them is above the Saint Realm. This kind of power is enough to destroy everything. So many people just to deal with Chu Kuangren? Isn't this a little too much? Is it worth it? My God, this myriad gods sect is so fierce, and they can even borrow the power of gods. This is too scary. Even emperors were shocked. The power displayed by the myriad gods sect could even contend against a heavenly master. Not to mention that Chu Kuangren had yet to officially ascend to the heavenly honorable realm. Chu Kuangren, all the deities have gathered here today. Together with my underworld formation, even if you're a heavenly executioner, you'll still die for sure. The believer of the nether god said coldly. The others also looked determined. They believed that no one could survive the judgment of the gods. Chu Kuangren could not help but chuckle when he heard the underworld god believer's words. How can a bunch of fake deities gathered together be called a trial? As for this netherworld formation, was it used to trap him? The way I see it, you're just getting caught in your own trap. Now that things have come to this, you still dare to show off. Kill them all. The underworld god believer roared. In an instant, the deity's worshippers charged towards Chu Kuangren one after another. They were like a mighty army of thousands of men and horses. Every single one of them was imbued with divine power. Like an army from the deities, they were ready to judge all heretics. In the face of such a force, even an emperor would have to flee. However, Chu Kuangren remained calm. Fine, I'll let you see what a trial is. Chu Kuangren lifted his hand and took out a colorful crystal. With a command from his emperor's thought, the colorful crystal suddenly emitted an endless brilliance, and streaks of colorful light surged out. The light streaks rushed into the crowd with terrifying 5 elemental energies. Wherever they went, screams were heard. The myriad deity sect's cultivators who were charging towards Chu Kuangren were instantly thrown into disarray as they retreated in panic. What is this? 5 elemental energies? Everyone could not help but be shocked when they saw those light streaks. They could sense that those light streaks contained extremely powerful energy. The aura of each light streak was comparable to a top-tier boundary emperor. Now, there were hundreds and thousands of light streaks flying out. When those light streaks arrived in front of Chu Kuangren, they then transformed into armored and masked figures. It was a well-organized and well-equipped army. This army had formed into 5 phalanxes, each wearing armor of a different color as they stood beside Chu Kuangren. They were gold, green, blue, red, and yellow. 5 different colors, 5 different auras, but their cold eyes revealed the same cold murderous intent. It was an army. An army that had been through hundreds of battles and was invincible. Where did this army come from? The myriad god sect cultivators were dumbfounded. They could sense how terrifying this army was. It was made up of top-tier boundary emperors, and the 5 people leading the army exuded a majestic emperor's aura. Obviously, they were 5 emperors. And they were 5 emperors with extraordinary combat strength. The God Shadow Army's golden armor guard greets our master. A man in golden armor with emperor's aura flowing around his body walked up to Chu Kuangren and knelt on the ground respectfully. The God Shadow Army's Crimson Flame Guard greets our master. The God Shadow Army's Roa Shui Guard greets our master. The God Shadow Army's Greenwood Guard greets our master. The God Shadow Army's Heavy Earth Guard greets our master. The 5 Emperor-level existences knelt in front of Chu Kuangren. These 5 people were the commanders of the 5 Elemental Divine Shadow Army. Each of them was a perfected emperor. Each of them led 200 boundary emperor soldiers. Including them, there were a total of 1,005 people. This was the 5 Elemental Divine Shadow Army. Not only that, but as Chu Kuangren's cultivation level increased, the overall strength of this army would continue to increase. Rise. Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction and said, God's Shadow Army, heed my command. Yes. The 1,005 people yelled in unison. Their morale soared, and their surging aura swept in all directions, shocking everyone present. Chu Kuangren looked at the myriad deity sects cultivators and smirked. Annihilate them. Yes. Once the 5 elemental divine shadow army received the order, they immediately charged towards the myriad god sect cultivators and unleashed their respective techniques. The golden armor guard's defense was unparalleled. With a long sword in his hand, his sword chi soared into the sky. Wherever he went, broken limbs flew everywhere. It was a bloody scene. The Greenwood Guard manipulated countless vines and branches to strangle or restrain their enemies, assisting the others in killing their enemies. The Ruo Shui Guard manipulated the force of water. Wherever the Crimson Flame Guard went, endless flames would burn everything in the world into ashes. The Heavy Earth Guard borrowed the power of the earth. Rocks flew everywhere, and his punches and kicks carried a tremendous force that was hard to defend against. The 5 elemental divine shadow army against the myriad god sect cultivators. On one side, there were powerful and well-trained elites, while on the other side, there were obviously branches and a loose mob. The gap between them was obvious. Even if the myriad god sect cultivators outnumbered the 5 elemental divine shadow army by more than 10 times, they were still vulnerable in front of the divine shadow army. Wherever the army passed, they were utterly defeated. It was a massacre. A massacre of the myriad god sect cultivators. Chapter 692. Damn it. Everyone, let's attack together. The emperors of myriad deities sect could no longer sit still. Seeing that the divine shadow army was slaughtering like a tiger in a flock of sheep, the emperors decided to take action to save the situation. However, at that moment, they felt the space around them change. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of them changed and they were pulled into the void by a powerful force. What's going on? The emperors of myriad deities sect were shocked. Unknowingly, the 5 commanders of the divine shadow army had surrounded them. They formed a pentagram and each occupied a position. Different 5 elements' powers flowed around their bodies. This is a joint attack formation. The followers of the underworld god were shocked. The 5 commanders of the divine shadow army were all exceptional emperors. It was hard to imagine how terrifying their strength would be when they used a joint attack formation. You deserve to die for offending the Lord. The commander in golden armor said coldly. He held a golden longsword with Tao patterns flowing on it. A sharp aura that seemed to be able to cut everything erupted. The other 4 also displayed their respective 5 elemental powers. Boom, 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 boom. Let me show you the power of the 5 elements divine shadow formation. The valiant and heroic commander Ruo Shui smiled coldly. She raised her hand and a majestic emperor aura erupted. Waves of water power, supported by the formation, rushed towards the emperors of myriad deities sect. One of the emperors could not dodge in time and his bones were shattered. Oh no, block it. Damn it. I didn't expect them to have such a formation. Dozens of emperors of the myriad gods sect urged their power to create a barrier to block the majestic torrent of water. However, behind the water, Commander Qi Yan and Commander Ho Tu attacked at the same time. 2 different Tao patterns merged in the void and formed a terrifying lava that poured out. Wherever the scorching lava passed, several emperors were swallowed on the spot. They did not even have the time to scream before they were melted. Binding of wood. Commander Qing Mu circulated his monarch chi, and a green feeling suddenly appeared in the air. Vines began to rapidly grow, like countless tentacles, wrapping around a dozen monarchs. 1,000 blades of gold. The golden armor commander raised the sword in his hand high. Streaks of golden sword aura condensed in the void and shot towards the emperors. Wherever the sword chi passed, flesh and blood splattered. None of the emperors who were bound by the vines were spared. Too brutal. Outside the Nether Abyss Valley, the spectators saw everything that was happening in the void with their spiritual sense and monarch intent, and their scalps went numb. All of them were emperors. Dozens of emperors were killed by the 5 commanders like they were vegetables. For many cultivators who weren't emperors, the word shocking couldn't describe such power. The 10,000 deities sect has lost this battle. It's a complete mess. That's right. Who would have thought that Chu Kuangren would have such a trump card in his hands? Where did he find this army from? This is simply unimaginable. They are all fearless of death, well-equipped, and the cultivation techniques they cultivate complement each other. Furthermore, even the weakest among them is a quasi-emperor. You won't be able to find such an army even if you search the entire firmament dome realm or even the 9 heavens. Don't tell me he built it himself. If that's the case, then this person is truly terrifying. The spectators discussed among themselves. Meanwhile, in the Nether Abyss Valley, the God's Shadow Army's massacre continued. The 10,000 deities sect's cultivators were almost defeated by the God's Shadow Army. It was the same even if they used their so-called divine power. We can't defeat them. We can't defeat them at all. Run! Some of the 10,000 deities sect's cultivators, seeing that they had no chance of winning and could not withstand such a massacre, turned around and tried to escape. However, it was futile. When Chu Kuangren stepped into the Nether Abyss Valley, the Underworld Gods believers set up an underworld formation to prevent Chu Kuangren from leaving. Once this formation was not dispelled, not even emperors could easily enter or leave, not even the 10,000 deities sect's cultivators. All of a sudden, all the cultivators started to curse at the Underworld Gods believers. F*ck me, those D*mn Underworld Gods believers. Why would they set up an underworld formation and trap us here? Who has a way to dispel this formation? Tell me now. No one can dispel it except the Underworld Gods believers. D*mn it. Aren't they just trapped in their own trap? The 10,000 deities sect's cultivators could not escape from the Nether Abyss Valley at all. Meanwhile, the God's Shadow Army was closing in and gradually slaughtering the 10,000 deities sect's cultivators. Gradually, the entire Nether Abyss Valley was dyed red with blood. Chu Kuangren stood at the side and watched the massacre with a calm gaze. His handsome face revealed the coldness of a deity. Some of the deity's clones glared at him. Heretic, once we break the seal, we'll kill you. That's right. I'll remember your aura. Looking at those arrogant deity's clones, Chu Kuangren did not need the God's Shadow Army to do anything. Instead, he raised his arm and unleashed a terrifying burst of Emperor's Qi, which easily destroyed the deity's clones. How dare a bunch of false deities make such a fuss? Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and said indifferently. Elsewhere, in a certain palace. A few lower deities and intermediate deities who had just been unsealed were gathered together, watching the battle in the Nether Abyss Valley through the light mirror. When Chu Kuangren said that they were false deities, the intermediate thunder god could not help but punch a stone pillar next to him. Amidst the explosion, the stone pillar shattered, and the entire palace shook. D*mn it. D*mn heretic. How dare he call us false deities? I must go and kill him. The intermediate thunder god said angrily. Terrifying lightning energy emanated from his body, and the surrounding void was filled with arcs of lightning. Just as he was about to make a move, an emperor's thought locked onto him. That was the emperor's thought from the Heavenly Honorable. If he dared to make a move, the Heavenly Honorable would not hesitate to attack him. D*mn it. The intermediate thunder god's eyes darkened, and he stopped in his tracks. A bunch of puny humans have unknowingly climbed to such heights. He was in a bad mood. Once upon a time, the humans were just slaves kept by the deities to provide them with faith energy. Yet now, they were on par with the deities. Don't make a move. Let's observe first. The lower water god said. Humph. The intermediate thunder god snorted. On the other side, Heavenly Honorable Su, Qi Xing, and the others were also paying attention to the battle in the Nether Abyss Valley. When they saw that Chu Kuangren had sent out a 1,000-man army that they had never seen before, they were equally shocked. How many more surprises does this guy have in store for me? Qi Xing murmured. Looking at Chu Kuangren in the light mirror, Qi Xing had a complicated look in his eyes. There was doubt, admiration, hope, and some nostalgia. Heavenly Honorable Su, who was beside him, noticed that too. She was a little surprised. For a heavenly executioner to have such a complicated look on his face, Chu Kuangren seems to have more than just mastered the heavenly punishment energy. Could he have some other secrets? You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.